Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Now enjoy the Practical Guitarist podcast.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, David.
I hope that was really hard to edit. And
I know, right?
For anybody listening to the show, watching the show, whatever, I'm the editor. So I'm hoping I make myself have a horrible time with this. I am starting to get into a rhythm of probably doing... I want to get faster and do more, but 2 episodes a month. So until we get beyond this time period where there's a lot of hectic stuff going on with my situation right now, we're probably going to be a 2 episodes a month show. But that said, I'm going to try to push, and if we can, we'll record more episodes, and we're almost caught up. I think we only have 1 more episode to go, and I'm editing that one currently. And I know there's like actual episodes I haven't launched that are sitting in the YouTube account. That's how much has been going on lately. So to put it in perspective, I've become a sound guy for a listener's band, and just kind of been doing a little bit of that stuff. I have been going through this whole renaissance of gear lately, and I have been just inundated with stuff at work, and inundated with my kids going back to school. So to put in perspective, Jim, this week, if you didn't hear from me, this is why. My daughter was sick from like Tuesday to Friday. 2 COVID tests with the Abbott Labs rapid test negative, right? So doesn't have COVID. Got his call from the school on Friday saying you need to get a PCR test before they can come back to school. So now I just found out the beginning of my week this week is going to be wrecked too, because they're going to be home with me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, likely because it's going to be 1 to 3 days before we get results back. So I've got to make sure that I'm enforcing the homework regime. Right. I got to be the homework fascist. So that's gonna be my week, and actually I'll probably be editing in between and doing work at the same time. It's gonna be mind-boggling. And I did my first Twitch live stream in months Sunday, and that was just a result of the band I was putting together falling through and having a little bit. I had an hour. I was like, I got 50 some odd minutes, so we'll do it real quick.
Yep.
I'm also in the active process of recording more demos for the show. I have footage of a product we're going to talk about in the What's New that'll probably be flown in over this. So if you're listening to the podcast, I won't put any audio on it. I had some people actually reach out to me and say that the audio was distracting in the last episode when we did the for the audio version of the podcast. That people said that the audio was distracting during the clip where we talked about the Golden Boy. So we'll probably nix that or we'll at least drop it back in the mix pretty low for audio podcasts in the future. If you do, for future reference, if you do hear that, and if we do plan to fly something in over something, we'll actually make a note about it in the podcast so that you understand at least what that is, because the person who reached out to me, I don't think they actually understood what was going on. So just for future reference, because I think it actually does enrich the show a little bit. I did have some good feedback on it as well, but I just want to make sure that it's clear what that is. All right, so we're going to get into it. What's new, right? Yep. And before we do that, if you are if you're finding our podcast for the first time on YouTube or whatever, follow us or subscribe. You can hit the notification icon down below as well to find out more about the show if you like what you hear. So, Jim, we're going to talk what's new. I want you to talk about your what's new first, because it is clearly the most expensive what's new we've ever had in the show's history.
Yeah. So I got a few $100s off, but it's still more expensive. So I got a white Les Paul custom, custom they call it. So it's a custom shop custom, and and I think all the customs are built in custom shops.
I think now that and that may have always been that way, but they didn't designate them that way.
Right. So it says Gibson Custom on the back of the headstock. I'll send you some pictures you can fly in. It's got the whole gold hardware, speed knobs.
It's a cool looking guitar. I mean, it's like every other Les Paul Custom you've ever seen, right? Like the white ones. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it literally is one of the nicest Les Pauls I've played. What happened was, I'll give you a brief rundown. I was sitting on Reverb, and I was at the Gibson demo shop, and they had a custom listed with minor dings in it for $36.99. And I was like, $1,000 off, I'll buy this. So I hemmed and hawed just long enough for somebody to pull it out of the cart and sell it or buy it.
So then you get frustrated. Now you're pissed.
Now I'm pissed. Now I'm frustrated. Now I'm on the hunt. So I go to the custom shop, Reverb, and I'm looking, and I find one that's perfect. I mean, it's, the Alpine White. It's gorgeous. And they say, oh, if you're close up, you can see these this hue that was from hanging it on a hanger store. But nobody's ever played it. There's no scratches in the pickguard, anything like that. Everything else perfect. So I was like, geez, do I get it? And they took, like, I don't know if anybody's from the days of Olin Mills, but you used to go get your picture taken with the family at Olin Mills like once a year, and get
they have a little photo studio in the shop, maybe even a booth. Really
nice. And of course they did it on a white sheet with a white guitar, and gorgeous. I get it in. Now, I'm not going to say I don't love my other guitars, even though they have these things. But those little tooling marks and none of that. It's just pristine all the way around. It's just so pristine. And I called them the minute it came in, and I said, yeah, this thing is dead on. And I have played it all of maybe 20 minutes because at that point, because I didn't want to call them and then later find out a pickup wasn't working or something. But yeah, great guitar, beautiful guitar. Can't wait to. I mean, it's not on the wall because it's been being played. I have.
So the one guitar most people would be afraid to take out.
Yeah.
You're not playing out. You are now playing out. So let's make it really clear to everybody. Jim's not the same kind of collector. When you said that to me, what did I say, Jim? I said, you're a collector now.
He goes, yep, you're a collector now. You're officially a collector, something like that. I think that's what she said. You're officially a collector. And the truth of the matter is, the first couple of days, I was kind of like that. Then I went and I bought a white Stetson. The big old white cowboy hat. I got the white leather strap with the gold custom diamond, Gibson diamond, and gold Schaller strap locks. Put them on there, told my other guitar player, and said, we're playing that next gig. And I have already gigged it. No dings yet.
You will, and you know what, honestly, you're going to own it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's yours. And guitar like that, but they get passed around. People sell them off. They trade them. Yep. I just don't see you doing that with something like a Les Paul Custom. That's everybody's, not everybody's, but that's like a lot of people's dream guitar. And for you, I know that you've been looking for one for quite some time. So I suspect you're going to hang on to that one. Even if it's a crappy guitar, I'd hang on to it, quite frankly. I have friends that have like 70s Les Paul Customs. I mean, so anyway, I have a plethora of what's new items. So I sold, because I don't think we even talked about all that. I sold what? I sold a guitar. I sold the red Janelle Legacy that I bought in 2018 for the show for pickups. I sold a road case. I sold. I'm trying to think what else went. There was a bunch of stuff.
Your keys?
My keys went a long time ago. That paid for the PRS.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Let me pull up my Reverb account, because it makes more sense if I just look at Reverb, because I have everything got sold through Reverb. I don't mess with anything else. I want the least personal way of selling to somebody. I just don't want to deal with people, and yeah, so that's that. Here we go. So, I sold a road case, the one I had for the Kemper. I got $200 for that. I got $450 for the G&L Tribute. I sold George L's. I think I did talk about that on the show. That was $270. I sold the Mission EP1 Expression pedal for $100. So all that money went into buying the Golden Boy and buying the BB preamp, which I think we've talked about on the show. The small board I bought, the small battery power supply, which I finally got to use at Open Jam this week, and it was all wonderful. All worked real well together. I actually also bought a Micro Vibe, so a Voodoo Lab Micro Vibe. Now, if you know me or if you're a fan of the show, you probably know I am a Univibe nut. I've had the Mini Deja Vibe before. I've had, oh gosh, a bunch of different ones. The Viscous Vibe. I'm trying to think. There's others. I own the Unicorn currently, and then I have now I have the Micro Vibe. Now, my commentary on the Univibe circuit is like, I don't think anybody actually gets it totally right. Okay. And I think there's a couple of reasons why, but I'm not going to delve too much into that. But what I do want to say is I really like the Unicorn, and I didn't expect to. But my only commentary on the Unicorn is it's not quite as wet as many of the Univibe circuits I'm familiar with. In general, it seems like you get more dry signal when you're using the chorus side of it. And I don't really use the vibrato, so it's hit or miss. I want something that really like pushes the mid-range and cuts through, and the Unicorn tends to do that pretty well, but I feel like sometimes when you gauge it, you can barely even tell it's on. And when I hit that thing, I want it to just saturate my signal so that you can at least tell there's something going on. So the Micro Vibe was one that I know a lot of like professional players have used over the years, and including Paul Gilbert. And I've heard lots of clips of it over the years, and I known people who've owned one. I've actually never tried one myself. I know that Voodoo Lab pedals have like an excellent pedigree behind them. I have heard people say things like, you can't go wrong, just buy the Voodoo Lab version. Now, of course, Voodoo Lab doesn't make many pedals anymore. I think they make the Giggity and the Sparkle Drag Mod, and that may be it.
The Giggity.
So the Micro Vibe has a good reputation coming in. It has a volume drop, like a significant volume drop. It loses like a dB and a half when you kick it on. And I thought it was just because the frequency contour of the vibrato circuit that's in it was like just changing the signal and was just not putting out as much in certain areas. But I've used it live, and it just drops through the floor. Like, yep. And I'm not a big fan of it. Like, for most people, it probably wouldn't even be an issue, but I actually prefer my Univibes to be hotter than stock signal, which most of them today are. And I think it's because they put a buffer at the end of them. This one was not that way. Now, I've read up, there's some mods you could do. There's one resistor in there that you can change, which is basically a volume knob, except they didn't put a pod on it. You can change this out for, I think it's like a 47K now, and you can change it to 38, and that'll give you a lot more volume. I thought about doing that for like approximately like 20 minutes. Because I sat there thinking, like, I bought this pedal, I got it as steel. I think I even talked about, I do believe we talked about that on this show, that I bought it for like next to nothing. Because they're all listed for like $150 right now. I think I paid $100 for this. Because some Sam Ash put it up, and the pictures were awful, and so I jumped on it because I knew what it was, and it's Voodoo Lab, like, it's not going to be junk when I get it, and it wasn't. Actually, it was in great condition. I could probably resell it for $150. But so I get this pedal in, and I'm like thinking it's not as good as what I thought it was going to be, and am I going to mod it, or am I just going to sell it? Because in the back of my mind, I'm going, well, if I mod this, then maybe I can use it. And I'm kind of going, you know what? I don't even know if it'll be worth the mod And then I can't undo it. I mean, I could put a new 47K in there, but it's not stock. So I have to say it's been modified and then returned to stock, which is going to lower the value. I'm just thinking, screw it. We're just going to either sell it on Reverb. I'm going to sell it to somebody I know for the price I paid for it. And I'm going to get something else. Which leads me to another what's new. So this evening I ordered if all goes well, I actually put the offer in and it got accepted, and I've got a tracking number, so I think it's coming. The whole other thing on that on Reverb. I got a Dry Bell Vibe Machine version 2. This is like the mainstream boutique Univibe to get right now. And I actually looked at, there's a guy, company's called Classic Amplification, and he makes the closest thing I've ever seen to a real Univibe. Okay. Like I guess he fixes them, and that's like his claim to fame, as he has worked on a lot of famous players' Univibes over the years. And so he built one that's basically like an exact replica of some of the good ones he's seen. And it was only like, his was like $275. So it was a toss up between this and that. The difference was his wasn't true bypass. It had a selector switch on it for true bypass. Now, the original Univibe is not true bypass, and its output stage is notorious for tone suck. But a lot of guys like it. They want it that way, so they're totally fine with using an old Univibe. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not, and I'm not willing to spend $275 on a real niche product that I may not be able to resell very easily. So I didn't go that route. I bought the Vibe Machine instead. And there's some other reasons. Of course, it's got tap tempo. So if I ever do go back to a switcher, or if I do what I think I'm going to do, I will be able to tap tempo my entire board off of the Vibe Machine, or off of a single tap. So the Vibe Machine, my delay, will go off a single tap. And then I'll be able to, easily control tempo of my board, which will be nice. So let me breathe for a minute. There's more. There's actually more to this story. I don't think I announced this on the last time we recorded. If I did, I apologize. I bought a Delay Llama Xtreme, which I think I probably would have brought up, because it seems like I can remember flashing my board up here, and I can remember. Oh
yes, you did. You did.
And I can remember, like, maybe the Delay Llama hadn't come in yet, but I had ordered the Micro Vibe, I think at the same time that we did the last episode. So it was probably already on there. And I do want to talk more about the Delay Llama, because I've had experience with it in a live venue and playing music with it. And it is... So I don't want to downplay this. It is not a deluxe memory man. I want to make this very clear to everyone. It's very similar. It has similar features and functionality and a feature set. It is a brighter analog delay than a deluxe memory man is. A deluxe memory man is a gritty, dark analog delay. This is a brighter analog delay. It is, I would not characterize a fat sound, but it is a very present sound. Like, it's focused and it's there in front of you. So if you're not comfortable with that, I would urge you to look elsewhere. There's some other stellar delay products on the market, analog delay products right now. The J-Rocket Clockwork, I think that's what it's called. And then, of course, Surge just came out with theirs. And I want to kind of compare and contrast a little bit, because I think if I'm talking about the Delay Llama, that there's a natural progression of, well, the Delay Llama is like way cheaper than this. And I think, yes, I think the Delay Llama is probably a better value. So in my opinion, like, you have the carbon copy, whatever, right, Jim? The Pro one with the tap tempo and the bright switch and the modulation controls right on the top. Yep. That's a cool pedal. A lot of people don't like the carbon copy. I don't hate it. I've owned one. It was a serious contender for when I was buying a DM2. It was like, do I want to go back to the carbon copy? And there's a couple of reasons why I didn't. Number one, it's dark, but the other reason was I actually had issues with mine. I had to send mine back in and get it repaired at one point. I'm like, I just don't want to risk that again. And when I did send it in for repair, they repaired it free, no charge, paid for the shipping. But it was so funny because it was way out of warranty, But the guy admitted, like, have basically repaired all of these that have been out in the field at some point. Because they're just, they had a bad run of parts or something. And they continue to use them rather than pull them. So they just bring them in and repair them and then ship them back out. So carbon copy's fine, right? That's the low end tap tempo analog delay. The next step up is like the Super Puss. Yes, a Super Puss, right? That's the way huge one. Tap tempo.
Yep.
Tap tempo, a lot of other wacky features. You got modulation, and I think you got other stuff in there too. That's a really cool pedal, and it's a great value. I think that's right around the price of the Delay Llama, maybe a little less. The Delay Llama Xtreme is the big brother to the Delay Llama, of course. It's $329, I think. Don't tell anyone, but you can probably get it for around $300. Don't tell anyone how I know that. Definitely call your dealer and talk to your dealer.
Yep.
So I got mine in, how it compares to the Clockwork. So the Clockwork is billed as like a deluxe Memory Man, but better. And that pedal's like in the neighborhood of $400. And that's competing with Electro Harmonic's own deluxe Memory Man with tap tempo, which is insane to me that it's priced at, because it's not even new old stock parts, is priced at a whopping $4,500 for their deluxe Memory Man with tap tempo. It is a full $200 more than their regular deluxe Memory Man. $200 for tap tempo. I'm gonna say that again, in case you weren't paying attention. $200 to add tap tempo. $200. Not of my money. Not of my money. I'm sorry. That's. I love tap tempo. I think that should be a required thing. And I've been quoted, I think, on the show before saying you don't need it. I think I want to kind of recant on that statement a little bit and go into that too. So what you get in the Delay Llama is you get a bright analog delay. It's got a tape mode. It's got a pitch shift mode, so it'll do pitch shifted repeats, and it has a random mode where it will cycle between one of the modes with random parameter settings. Now, everybody, when you first tell them that, it's like, that sounds terrible. And actually, when we went through it today, I went to Good Time Music and I showed it to Jeff over there. We went through it today and then we hit that mode and he was like, ugh. But I was thinking, like, I didn't get to run him through, like, what you can actually do with that mode that's really, really useful. So if you set it with a super quick time and a long repeat, you can have it do these crazy patterns that sound like, I want to say like a random tone generator. And you could theoretically run that into a looper and do like, a 3-second loop of random sounds and then run that through like a reverb and then have like this crazy bed of ambient stuff going on. And it's that kind of sound design stuff that I think like sets pedals like this apart. They have kind of wacky, weird features like that. You can do things that you can't with like something like a Super Puss, which is more geared towards, and I'd say that, I know that got some wacky features in it too, but something like, let's say just a deluxe Memory Man, right? You're not going to get those kind of wacky sounds out of it. Now, the third mode, or the pitch shift mode, and then the tape mode, and then there's a modulated mode, and then just basic dry repeats. There's a kill dry switch, so if you want to turn off your dry signal, you can. It has the option for trails on or off, so if you want to use it in true bypass mode, no trails, and you got that as an option, which is really cool. And then, of course, the tap tempo, you got your, division selector. Two of the knobs are dual function. There's a cool, like, arcade button on it that you hold down, and then while it's held down, you can use the knobs to change the other parameters. It takes about 15 minutes to learn to use the pedal. It's not bad at all. So how does this compare to the Clockwork? Well, the Clockwork's a deluxe Memory Man, right? This is a bright analog delay. So it's a little bit different. This is better at slapback. This is going to be better at anything where you want to have more shimmer to your sound. Whereas the deluxe Memory Man is going to be better at sitting back in the mix, maybe not getting as offensive in the sound. When I turn the delay on, I want to hear it. I want people to know it's there. This actually makes a better faux reverb, in my opinion. Which I know a lot of people are like, but reverb's usually dark. Yeah, but that's the problem, right? So when you use a reverb, it's usually dark. That's why people are into shimmer and stuff now, because it sits different in the mix. So I've been using it almost always on with a slapback sound, and then I have a preset, because it's got 4 presets on it. I've got a preset for longer delays, and of course I can always use a slapback sound and hit the tap tempo. So I mean, if I want to slow it down, I can do that. The vibrato is good enough in it that you can use it for like really wacky stuff, and especially if you use the kill dry on it and you set the time to nothing. I mean, it's just bonkers. Delay time on this is 800 milliseconds. And going into the clockwork, I think the clockwork is like 1400 or 1200. It's closer to Deluxe Memory Man, but that's why they're grittier, because they're using the same amount of chips, but they're dialing them at a lower bit rate effectively, right? Which basically means that they're tuning the pedal to not have as much fidelity as length of time. This pedal, there should have been a video running underneath me talking here, but this pedal, if you open one up, is just crazy jam-packed with stuff. I mean, the board is incredibly well laid out, and it is literally like wall-to-wall components. And the smallest enclosure they could get was like the bigger. It's about, you know, I'm doing the goal post from football thing. It's about like yay big. So Clockwork's about the same size, right? Deluxe Memory Man clone. And then we want to talk about the Sir one before we move on. And I only want to talk about that because that's probably the biggest comparison in the room right now. A lot of people think that's the delay to beat. I'm here to tell you I'm not a big fan of the idea of that delay. I haven't tried it, so don't shoot the messenger. But there are some serious drawbacks in that pedal, and I think that's what I want to call attention to as, you know, the end of the what's new. So I'm going to give you a downer. I'm buying all this crap, but I want to talk about something that's sort of negative. So, Jim, have you watched any of the Sir? What is it called? The Sir. We'll find out. It is the Sir Discovery analog delay.
Oh no.
Okay, so Pete Thorne's done a demo of it, of course, because he's a Sor Indoor C, right? And he made it sound really good, right? But anything he plays sounds good. That's the first thing to point out. So here was my takeaway. It is a analog delay, basically in the style of a Deluxe Memory Man. It has a similar amount of time. I mean, I don't understand why people think that it's like a genital measuring contest, right? People want to like judge a delay by its delay time. Anything over 600 milliseconds is just gravy, right? And between 600 and 400 is not a deal breaker. If you're like below 200 milliseconds on your delay time, it's useless. But like, because you need to be able to get beyond a slapback, right? So that's why I'm saying that. So like, between 200 and 600 is going to be a perfectly fine pedal for like 99% of applications.
Right.
Without looking at the specs on the Sir, I know it's up there. But here's where things start to get kooky, right? So it has a digital readout for your display time or for your delay time, which is cool, right? Like that's a feature you don't see in a lot of analog delays, and it allows you to precisely dial in the right amount of time. It has MIDI in and out, so it has MIDI. I'm assuming it has presets that you can recall, and it may be a lot. I didn't look at the MIDI sheet to see if you could adjust controls. I think MIDI control in an analog delay is a great idea. I don't think it's necessary if you have presets. So just putting that out there. The Delay Llama does not have MIDI control per se, but you can control it. It has 3 separate control inputs on the side of it. They're not MIDI, but I do believe you can send a CV signal into this thing, which means that you can use any real, expression controller or anything that can put out an expression control voltage, or even like, I'm trying to think of modular synthesizers do that, where they set a CV voltage in. So there's a lot of options there that you can do with that, but they're just not MIDI. To recall presets, the Sir Discovery has a a tap tempo foot switch built into the pedal. It has a bypass foot switch. It has single output, so it's not stereo. And I'll get to that in a minute. It has output for expression pedal in addition to a separate tap output. So if you don't like your tap on the pedal, I assume that also means you can probably put it into a mode where you can use presets off the tap. And it has, I'm not even sure what controls those are. They look like preset buttons, and of course divisions. It's got 5 divisions. A lot of pedals only have 3. Yeah, it does have presets for sure. I can see that now. Here's where things get dicey. All of that stuff aside, which is all great. I probably should talk about the regular controls too. So you got your time control, mix control, regen control. You got low cut and high cut, so you can actually adjust the filtering on it, which is cool. Speed and depth for modulation. Here's where things get dicey. This pedal only runs at 18 volts. So, only 18 volts. So, if you are almost at the end of your power supply, you can plan on buying another power supply to go with this. Now, you're automatically going to tie up 2 outputs on your new power supply if you do that. Just bear in mind, you're already getting into that sort of a situation where this has got a funky requirement. Here's where it gets even dicier. This pedal retails for $550 for a single analog delay that does not have a built-in charge pump and is not stereo. Now, I realize saying stereo analog delay means you have to have a big box with stereo chips in it, full stereo analog signal path. But for $550, you get features that you can find in things like the Aquapus and the Delay Llama Xtreme with a display and an 18-volt power requirement. No charge pump. Now, I'm going to point out something. So all of these things that I just said about being stereo, not being stereo, and the 18-volt DC requirement. If you buy a Deja Vibe, the MDV2, which is the one I had, he knew that people were going to balk at the 18-volt DC requirement, so he built a charge pump into the circuit. There are quite a few pedals on the market today that have a charge pump built into them, where they don't even disclose to you that the pedal actually runs at 18 volts.
18 volts, yep.
Because even if you run a 9-volt adapter into it, it's going to convert it to 18 volts DC.
Yep.
So, why didn't they do that with this pedal? It's $550, and a charge pump's like $5-6 worth of components max. It's peanuts. That's components and labor to put it together. It's literally like 6 or 8 items you solder to a little bitty board. This pedal, it's indicative of a lot of things I've seen out of Sir lately, which is like, here, we've got this really high-end guitar, and we know everybody loves Sir, so we're just going to charge $3,500 for it, even though there's only like 20, it's really only a $2,000 guitar. That's Sir in a nutshell. I mean, it's a company that makes $3,000 Strats. That's what they make. $3,000 Strats. I mean, I'm not saying that there's like not a market for that. Obviously there is, but it's like, has the world gone mad? I mean, the Strat is kind of like the building block guitar. I know that, and I'm a Strat lover, like anybody who knows me. So for me, it's like, I played a couple of Sirs, and I've been relatively unimpressed for the amount of money they charge for them. And they've only gone up since I played them. So, and then you got this guy, and then they get I was talking to somebody, and they kind of shot me down. They're like, well, yeah, but it does this and this, and it's the only pedal. It's like, that's not an issue for me. Dude, everything Sir does is overpriced. I'm here to just poke holes in your boat. The only thing that Sir makes that's not overpriced are things like the Sir Riot, the distortion pedal. The Sir Discovery is just like their IR loader, which is literally just put the IRs in the box with a really good load attached. The Captor X that we have, Jim, is a better product than the Sir IR loader. And I know people are like, but the load's better in the Sir IR. I don't care. You don't buy a Captor X for how good the load is. You buy it because you want the best direct to front of house signal you can get your hands on. And then you just turn the load box off when you're playing on stage. That product is not really made for you to use the attenuator. You can use it. I use it all the time.
Right.
But like, if you ever crank it down to the bedroom setting, I mean, it doesn't sound good. It sounds okay. So it is what it is. If you want this, sure, Discovery, sure, go for it. If you want to save a boatload of cash and get a great delay Llama XL is cool. The Super Plus is cool. I actually was going to buy a Super Plus. I couldn't get my hands on one. Or even the Clockwork looks to be really cool. And actually, if I hadn't bought the Delay Llama, I'd probably be looking harder at the J-Rocket Clockwork because everything we have from J-Rock has been solid. So, but this pedal looks bonkers. All right, let's into what's new. It's been 40 minutes. Let's move on. So we were going to cover Sweetwater. We're going to do 10 minutes on Sweetwater. Let's keep it tight.
Yep.
So everybody knows Sweetwater got sold. Chuck Sirach sold the company, right? Everybody on the internet's been, oh my God, Sweetwater's going to collapse and it's going to get bad and you're going to get ripped off and there's going to be all these pricing changes. I think Jim and I should be up front. We've already recorded this episode and then actually we didn't have any audio. So Jim and I know exactly where this argument's going. It's going to be real easy to have this conversation. Opening argument, I'll just give it right now. If you think that Sweetwater sold the company and like just gave up control, like the Chuck Sirach just gave up control of the company, there's literally mountains of evidence saying that he didn't. Mountains, and I'll provide a couple of items and I'll let Jim take over. So number one, of course, nobody knows the nature of this transaction. Like he's saying, I'm going to go and work on the downtown area of Fort Wayne, which is a big project for him.
He owns a lot of stuff in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
He owns like a third of the town. It's just nuts. So he's saying that's what I'm doing, right? But he's already sold the company to an investment firm before and then bought it back. Because he doesn't like having bank loans. Okay? He's like most musicians in that regard. We don't like dealing with banks. That's just a thing. So I would find it very, very likely that in the near future, we find out how much involvement Chuck is still going to have with Sweetwater. He is the chairman of the board. Yep. And he left his right-hand man in control of the company. Guy that's been with him since like 1980 something. So basically he was driving around in a van. Yeah. So let's just erase the idea that this is going to be, there's no evidence that, the company's not falling into dire straits. Second off, and I think we established it before, Jim, this is not like a hostile takeover like what we saw with Gibson or anything over the years. This is not a company that's in trouble. They've had a $1 billion year the year before. And in this industry, $1 billion year, that's literally unheard of. And they had been ramping up before 2020. So it wasn't just COVID that did this. Like going back to 2018 or 2017, I found an article where they were talking about, Chuck was talking about the performance of the company. He said, our target is 1 billion and we're 3/4 of the way there. So $750 million worth of sales in like 2018. So put that into perspective. They built this giant warehouse. They have been making a ton of improvements to their products and services. They've been bringing in new brands left and right. The company is extremely profitable. You buy this company, are you trying to screw it? Like, it doesn't make sense. Jim, have at it.
Yeah, you pretty much covered all of the bases. I think there are a couple things to remember when it comes to what happened with Guitar Center. And so anybody that tries this is apples and steak. I mean, they're not even the same fruit thing. They're completely different. So,
hey, folks, everybody, I want to point something out. Jim used to work there and really likes Guitar Center. So for him to say this is like, it's just bonkers. When I hear this, I'm like, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, this is nowhere near what you've got going on there. So, first of all, anybody who's talked to their reps, of course, the reps are going to say what the company line has to be. But that said, anybody who's talked to their reps, even if you got one leaker, no one is saying, oh, yeah, things are going to shift. We're not going to be able to give you discounts. You're going to have to. No, nobody's saying that. I've spoken with my rep several times since before the news and since after the news broke. Within the last few weeks, because I got a guitar coming, as you all know. I got a pre-order guitar coming. So I don't see I don't see anything different.
It wouldn't be short term anyway. But any differences we see, I can't imagine.
Minimal.
Well, but I can't even imagine that they would be things that were on the table when, you know, the new investors have prompted this. Because again,
exactly.
Chuck has the confidence of the board to be the chairman. So either that means he still has a major stake in the company, which I suspect is actually the case, or they have complete confidence in the way that the company is currently being run.
Right.
Otherwise, they would have said, no, we're going to buy you out. We want to put our stooge in there to run things.
Right. We're going to do what Apple did in the 80s. And we're going to put, was it in the early 90s?
John Scully.
We're going to, Ron Scully.
No,
John Scully.
Yeah.
And John Scully came from Pepsi, right?
Yeah, he was at Pepsi. And I think Levi's before that.
Yeah. So let's get a guy who was in charge of soda to run a computer company. Whatever. So here's what I'm getting at. I think the only thing that they want to do is provide them with the monetary ability to broaden their horizons. Now they're already, I don't care who you talk to, with the exception of very few people, Sweetwater is the one place, if somebody's going to go online, going to buy something, Sweetwater, if it's new. Reverb if it's used, right? That's our two, kind of the thing now, right? So why would you come in and go, you know what, I'm going to totally mess that up? No, you wouldn't do that. And you wouldn't give Guitar Center the chance to get upper hand. So what do? You stick with what you've got, but you allow for a broader audience. Where's that broader audience going to be? Well, it's going to be outside of the United States. I think that's really probably where they're going to go. Is we're going to hit on Asian markets and Indian markets, which a lot of people have not. Yeah. Are not breaking India, right?
And India has a huge, massive musical instrument market. I mean, people are over there buying keyboards and stuff right and left.
We are talking a country or an area that's got close to billions of people. I mean, India has millions of untapped
we folks. have 333 million people in the United States that Sweetwater is currently selling to. A market like India or China, billions.
Billions. And so you've got as many people playing the guitar as there are people in the United States. I mean, that's really, musical instruments. So that's really a market you want to break into. And it is the market that I imagine, I'm not sure, not 100% sure. I imagine that's what they look at. And they want to take the success and build on that success, not break that success down.
So one of the things we had in our original discussion that I want to kind of briefly touch on, Sweetwater is now at a point where they're no longer really competing with other companies in the United States.
Not really.
Because they've just gotten to they're just a juggernaut. I mean, there are companies like, I guess, Music 123 and Sounds and Musician's really, Friend and
some people
Guitar
use
Center, obviously. But I think the reason that those places are still sort of successful for the online sales, Guitar Center excluded, of course, is they have alternative brands, right? So, like, I know Sounds still carry like the stuff from Anderton's, the Anderton's exclusives. I think they're still the only place where you can get Chapman at Guitar Center, but for a while they were the only place you can get Chapman guitars. And I think that's part of why they're still around. But that's rapidly eroding. Like Sweetwater is buying more and bringing in more and more product. I mean, they got
just
They got Reverend. Like
Yep.
that's like phenomenal to me. I've been drooling over Reverends on their website for weeks.
Huge win, and I've been tempted to switch that pre-order to a Reverend. So it's.
I don't blame you. I know a guy locally has I don't think it is a Reverend, but it's like a Reverend copy with 3 P90s in it that just smokes. I'm like, oh God, like, don't show me that. So yeah, Reverend's a thing now over there, and I really think that they're looking at the European market because
they already had. Here's the important thing: they already had Mesa, even before Guitar Center was getting it back.
Mm-hmm.
So they already had that. They already had all the big names. We don't have to go through them.
Yeah, right.
And so, and I think didn't they just? Do they have Rickenbacker? I don't know if they have Rickenbacker, but the point is, they're a like you said, they're a juggernaut. And when people think about buying online, people do not think of Guitar Center.
No,
when they think of buying online, that is not where they think about going.
Sweetwater's biggest competitor in the United States is probably Reverb.com. Let's be real. So moving beyond that, right? So like, what is their biggest like retail competitor in the world? Probably Thomann. And so I think they're looking to toehold and fight it out in Europe. Thomann is a massive company, and they basically provide for all the European nations, Russia, North Africa, and I believe Asia already. So for them to go toe to toe with Thomann, they've got to get capital, because they can't just go and knock on their door and be like, yeah, we're just going to build a building over here and let you guys smoke us. It's going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Thomann was already bringing YouTubers from the States to Europe.
That's a shot across Sweetwater's bow. Sweetwater did not have a YouTuber program. They do now.
They do now.
They did not have an affiliate program. They do now. They have all of these things to try and like get some of that sweet independent marketing, and that's a great indicator of who they're competing against, because you don't see, like, Guitar Center's not encouraging independent YouTubers. They don't want independent marketing. I think they're still sort of like stuck in the older ways of how you run a corporation, in the sense that like they got some brick and mortar mentality still going on. And
I literally picture the people at Guitar Center in charge of it, like a bunch of old men. And for me to call somebody old, they're really old, right?
It's
a bunch of old men sitting around smoking cigars, going, "How did we do it back in the day? That'll be the best way to do it. Gosh darn it!"
It's very like retail in 1978.
Yeah.
Where retail is dead today, guys. I don't know if you're paying attention. That's why you're about to close the 30-year stores. It's like maybe you should think about that for a minute. And we've seen a lot of their competitors go down the same path. So this is like not new to us. We did talk about briefly a couple things that Sweetwater could do that would be bad ideas. Number one would be open up retail stores here in the United States. That would be a terrible idea, unless it's a destination retail store where they're like, we're going to put in LA, we're going to put a Sweetwater retail warehouse. Where
LA, a Chicago, a New York, a Miami, maybe those, and possibly Dallas. I mean, you got to put one in the south.
Right.
And I'm thinking that's it, really. 4 or 5 locations. Mm-hmm. That's it. And you've touched everything. And that's just so you can get, number one, you get product to people faster, because you're now much quicker in your product line, because Fort Wayne's dead center of the United States, right?
They just lucked out on that one too. I was like, they chose this place, right? No.
Yeah, no.
No. It was like that just happened to be where they started.
Now, anybody who's not familiar with Fort Wayne, it's flat, dead flat. Okay. I was supposed to live out there a while back, so I used to work there all the time.
Maybe not quite as flat as Texas, but it's flat.
But it's flat. I mean, when you come from New York, which I do, upstate where there's mountains, that is flat. And The other thing about it is there's a lot of it's, believe it or not, as David mentioned before, Chuck isn't into having loans because Chuck comes from a relatively old-fashioned. It's weird that he's taking on all this new stuff because he's relatively old-fashioned in that way. There's a lot of Amish in the area.
Correct.
Okay, so you have a very, and if you've ever flown into Fort Wayne, and I have flown into Fort Wayne, I know there's a couple of YouTubers go, oh yeah, I flew there. There's like a candy machine and a soda machine and about 12 seats. I'm kind of.
He's not exaggerating.
Not exaggerating as much as you might think. And like 4, places for planes to pull in, and not a lot of space. Yet, where they smartly though, where they put that warehouse is right there near UPS, FedEx. That is right there where they can just turn around and go, yeah, here, just give your stuff over here. They can literally walk over there with very strategic. Mm-hmm. And some very smart people out there. You've got what the heck's the name of it? Baylor, the college over there. Just a very smart move. And of course, I mean, the location, like I said, is the middle of the United States. It's really good.
It's like a lot of things coming together to make that place what it is. But mostly
some of it purposeful, some of it kismet.
Mostly just the fact that, like, in the 80s, like, musicians went to Sweetwater for their microphones and their studio equipment because Chuck was a guy that knew stuff, and Chuck was a musician, so he treated you like a musician, like your buddy that you were buying stuff from, and he realized that was the service model that was going to carry him through. They didn't start carrying guitars until like the mid 2010s or something. I mean, it was like 2000. It might have been like 2005 or something, but it was like I think it was like 2010. I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
I remember them calling me and say, "Do you need a guitar?"
They started with Godin originally, and then it just blossomed into every other brand they've got. I mean, their wall of brands is just stupid now. There's so much stuff on it. And they literally have a wall there with just brand stickers on it, and it's like you just sit there and you just go, I don't even know. I don't know what that is. So anyway, don't believe all the stories you're hearing from YouTube. Negative shit leads. And people they're running with this, and they're going to feed it down your throat, and you're going to buy it, and you're going to participate in the comments, and you're going to get upset because corporate America's damaging your, beloved company. First off, it's company, right? It's still taking your money, right? It's not something you should sit there and be like, this is good or bad. But just understand, I don't think this is nearly as negative as it's made out to be. There was one comment I saw in one of these videos that I do want to address before we move on to the next topic. And there was somebody saying, just look for your prices to go up. They're going to go up because they're going to use this. Look, they had a third party come in and buy the company. That means they have investment capital now. I don't think they want to tamper with pricing. I think that's the last thing they want to do. Especially because one of our other topics tonight is about pricing. So we'll get there when we get there, but just keep that in mind. So anyway, continue to shop at Sweetwater. Don't worry about it. And if things start to change, I'm sure you'll hear about it from us as well as others. So next topic is it's one that we found out about this week, and I kind of did a little bit of digging, and you did a little bit of digging. Fender launched a new line of instruments, the Player Plus series. Jim, maybe you want to talk about what Player Plus actually is, and then we can talk about what it really is.
Yeah. You want me to tell you you want me to go over what it really does? Well, all right. So this is what I see as Player Plus. And you want me to start with what I gave you as earlier?
Well, why don't we just talk?
Right, let's talk about the specifics.
All right.
So the Player Plus, here's what Fender did. So they took the players, they rolled the fingerboard, and they put noiseless pickups in them.
There's actually a little bit more here too, but go ahead.
There's a couple more. The basics, the bare bones of the things you'll like the most are most people will like most. Noiseless pickups, rolled fingerboard, 12-inch radius, and locking tuners.
Locking
You've
tuners,
also got-
2-point tremolo, which is no longer standard
Right.
on most of the line.
That's right. 2-point tremolo, and on the vinyls that have the tremolo, and you have the there's some accoutrements like the spaghetti logo. Oh, and you get the push pull.
As you can say, push pull.
Get so on the Stratocaster that pulls in the depends on which one you get. If you get an HSS,
right.
Splits coil. If you get a SSS, it's very much like the it's really just a player version of the Lux, the Deluxe. So you've got the push pull for the regular telly. I wanted to get it right. The regular telly, the two pickup telly, that push pull puts them in, it phase reverses the pickups or puts them in series. The other one, the Nashville telly, brings in the neck pickup no matter what position you're in. The Stratocaster, it brings in the neck pickup on the SSS. On the HSS, like I said, it splits the coil. That's what I've got.
22 fret neck, which traditionally they're 21. Colors you've never seen before, right? So I believe they're all colors we've never seen before. Bel Air Blue is actually like a two-tone, which is a front to back fade.
I like that blue. I like the blue.
That one and the tequila, that sunrise color are
the
gorgeous.
Tequila sunrises are really cool looking.
The Cosmic Jade is good looking. That's green.
Yeah.
That green sparkle.
Like green
they
guitars.
do have a 3-color sunburst. That's the only one in the line that you've seen before. And then the silver burst is very similar to what you'll find in the Mocha Burst. I think it is on the on the high end one.
Oh, I don't have
the Ultra.
Down before.
Okay.
Yep.
So here I'm gonna play devil's advocate a bit because I'm not buying one of these. That's my devil's advocate on this. I want everybody to know this is aimed at me. Like, this is a shot across my bow. I looked at these and I was like, hot damn. They're finally figuring it out. They built a modern Stratocaster. This is what people want right now, which is this is a circular, is what this is at $9.99. That is what this is. The only things it doesn't have. Sorry, I reverted to my ancestral ways. The things that it doesn't have.
The only thing it ain't got.
Yeah, the only thing it don't got. It doesn't have the Godot 510. Right? It has their version of the Godot 510, which is a 2-point tremolo. It doesn't have stainless steel frets, but it's not an American-made guitar, but a Mexican-made guitar at $9.99. You're not going to get stainless steel frets on that. If you were going to get that out of Ibanez, you can get the, I forget what the name of the series is, AZ, made in Indonesia. Okay, big difference there in terms of labor and price. So, I looked at these and I was like, "Wow, they just basically took the sales out of Charvel because a lot." Jim, you missed on one important element of these. These are a 12-inch radius.
Oh, I mentioned that.
Oh, did you? I didn't recall you saying that. These are a 12-inch radius, which is why I said. That's super important.
That is shot right at us. That's meant for us too.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And AZ players and Sir players and all of the modern Stratocaster 12-inch. Yeah. So, here's where it gets interesting, right? So, like, let's think about the price point for a minute. These are between $1,000 and I think it's 1,100.
Or 11.
I think the most expensive one's like 1,100.
Unless you go to the base, then I think it's $11.99 for the 5-string deluxe.
Yeah, which the base just seems like we just needed to make sure we offer a bass in these colors.
Yeah, they got a 5-string jazz. I meant to say active, not deluxe. Then that one I think is $11.99.
Put it in perspective on this one. We'll go through the P-Bass spec here for a minute. 3-band active EQ, so it's active.
Yep.
4-saddle high mass bridge. That's something that people have asked about for years.
That's right.
12-inch radius fingerboard with rolled edges, and a modern C-shaped neck. So that is actually decidedly modern as well. I don't think that you're going to... This is more like a shot against like G&L or companies like that are offering a modern bass that has vintage aesthetic. I didn't look at the Telecaster a whole lot. So I'm excited by these. I think for a player... I think we started the show. We talked about the professional delineation line of a guitar being $1,000. I think these are firmly like this is the top of the Weekend Warrior class, and I think that these are going to sell really well for them. Jim, you had a comment though that I thought was very interesting. It was something about cannibalism.
I was talking about the iPhone thing.
Oh, no, I thought you said that when we talked about this initially that you said this was going to cannibalize Fender sales.
Oh, it will. And here's the thing. So if these were out when I bought my Ultra, I'd have bought one of these.
Yeah. Why would you buy an Ultra?
No brainer. I don't need a compound radius. I just didn't want a 9.5-inch radius. I didn't need all the other stuff. To be honest with you, what is the Ultra got, and especially even the Lux? What's the Lux really giving you that this guitar doesn't give you?
Well, on the Ultra, you get the heel, and that, in my mind, is the main selling point of those guitars.
And that's exactly what got me to my comment before about what Fender's doing. It's just like iPhone. It's like Apple. But we can come back to that if you want.
Well,
here's the thing.
I think we touched on it on the episode I just edited and put up, which is that's like the custom shop thing. They're putting these artificial lines in the sand,
right, for
you to have to jump through hoops to get to the next model.
That's right. So they had to leave two things out. They had to leave that contour heel. And here's the thing: they could have put the other series of the contoured heel, the kind of contoured here.
The one that was just like the curve.
The Deluxe. It's just a little curve.
It was flat with a circle around it, so instead of a square in your hand, you had the thing.
You little, but the thing is that the only thing that Deluxe is the Ultra Deluxe even. So mine, I keep pointing back, but it's actually on the floor behind me. Mine has the nice, beautiful contoured heel, right? I love that heel, by the way. That's a huge selling point for me. And I love the neck. And the other thing that they're giving you is in the Deluxe Ultra is the gosh darn stainless steel frets that you just mentioned. So really, this is an Ultra without the contoured heel, or a Deluxe Ultra without the contoured heel and the stainless steel frets. And go ahead. I just think
buy one of these, get a deal on it.
Yeah.
Take it to your luthier, give them the $550, have them put in stainless steel frets, do your single fret job you'll ever have to do on the guitar, and be done with it.
That's right.
The heel,
you have to get a
totally minimal issue. People make a way bigger deal out of that than it is.
How many of us are playing up that high, that often, that much? Exactly.
Do you see the good smile here?
Yeah, because you do. I'm one of those. There's no money behind the 9th fret or whatever. I rarely play. Even when I'm up high, I rarely play beyond the 17th fret. Rarely. And if I am on the 17th fret, guess what strings I'm on?
The PRS is the first guitar I've ever had where I play up the 24th.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
That's because it's a very comfortable guitar to play it up.
Well, I mean, I suck at playing above the 22nd because the frets get so thin in between and I got sausage fingers, but I actually do use the stuff beyond the 22nd now, which I'm like looking at my lowly Strat over here and going, what am I going to do with you? No. I tell you what I'm going to do with you. I'm putting 9s on you because I can't handle those manly 10s anymore. I bought 2 sets of 9s today for the first time in like a decade. We'll get to that. That's a whole other conversation. I can go into Gig Report or something.
I said, I just think that's, so I recently, as you know, I just ordered the iPhone 13. I got the 11 Pro Max. My kid, his phone got crushed. One of my sons. So I'm giving him my 11 Pro Max, which just got paid off. So I did the thing. Anyway, so here I am with the 11 Pro Max, getting the 13 Pro Max. And the only thing I'm getting is eventually cinematic mode, which is actually not coming right away. And some, an A15 Bionic versus the A14 Bionic. I'm getting the, the smallest of upgrades. A lot more battery life. That's the one thing that everybody's.
You are getting a not incrementally better camera, but a camera that's like on another level totally.
Yeah, and I'm getting a battery that's on another level, and I'm doubling my RAM,
your storage capacity.
This is a 0.5 terabyte. Now the funny thing is, I have shot video with this. I've literally shot whole gigs worth of video, just
same
video whole
same.
time. And guess what?
But there's a reason for that, Jim, because it squashes the files. If you're using a video app that'll actually do a less lossy encoding, yeah, you'll fill that up fast.
I know.
I have to clear mine out pretty regularly, especially when I use it for the show. So,
yeah. But the terabyte's going to be nice. The 1 terabyte's going to be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my point of all that is, it's like, should I get a player? If you're a person saying, should I get a player or should I keep my player? Should I get a player plus? Here's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you want the noiseless pickups? Do you want the rolled fingerboard? Do you want the 12-inch radius? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. Because on the player, you have the 9.5-inch radius, the flatter.
And the price is negligible. The price difference is negligible. Like $750 to $900.
Yeah.
Save your coin for another month, and then get into the $999 one. Like, why?
I would.
I honestly think Fender's doing something here. I think Fender's sort of playing with fire. So I think Fender is creating. Now remember, this is a really small series. There's 4 total guitars in this series. There's a SSS Strat. I'm getting there. An HSS Strat, a 2 pickup Telly. I don't think they did another one, did they? And then they did the precision.
And the 3 pickup Telly.
Oh, I'm not seeing all of them, I guess. But I think there's 6 models. There's 2 Tellys, the 2 pickup, the 3 pickup, and then the precision and a jazz bass.
That's right.
So
and there's a 5-string jazz as well. So you gotta add that one.
All right. But that's like a super basic run for them. Yep. And there's no jazz masters. There's no let's keep that in mind. They didn't touch any of the other stuff that will likely come at some point in the future because I think Fender is testing the water on whether they can sell modern guitars. They know that the vast majority of their sales is vintage focused. And I think they're starting to realize they have a super young market and that that young market is now not as interested in vintage as they were because they're producing quality stuff. They've kind of changed the mode over the last couple of years that modern Fender is not as bad as it once was. And you can buy a modern Fender and it's comparable to some of the vintage stuff that you've had your hands on over the years. Would I buy a modern Fender over a 1970s Fender? Probably. Is that a dumb move? Probably, because my 1970s Fender will go up in value. The modern one? Forget it. But that's where this all gets interesting, right? So they launch 5 or 6 guitars. What are they really doing? They're going to tip their toe in this water, and then they're going to find out there's a plethora of people that are willing to purchase this stuff. And
these things will be gone so fast, your heads will spin.
They're going to be hard to get. And what's going to happen is they're going to double the line with the number of models, and eventually they're going to phase out the regular player series. That's what's going to happen long term. The Player Plus will turn into the player series. You'll see a blurring of the lines.
You'll have what they call that, the American Performer. Whatever. That's going to be the only old-fashioned.
I can even see them having a line called American Vintage. And even player. Or even player vintage. So for the people that are like, somebody looking for that 57 Strat, They can get the Player Vintage model. And I wouldn't even be surprised if some of the features and accoutrements for those are actually more specific to what vintage guitars are really like. Because a lot of their stuff is middle of the road vintage right now. It has certain features that you would find on vintage guitars, but not all the features you would find on a vintage guitar. Notice that everything in their line is in a 9.5-inch radius almost. There's not a whole lot of production with 7.25. And I could see them going back and making a 61 reissue and a 57 reissue that have that 7.25-inch radius and going that way with the vintage style stuff so it's more accurate. And then having this modern stuff fill the void for the players that they've traditionally been targeting. I think they're sort of looking at the line and they're going, in 2 or 3 years, they're going to be looking at the line and going, wow, so we can actually have a diversified lineup. We don't have to just have like one guitar that tries to satisfy both sides of the market. And they're at this unique position now where they can do that because let's face it, Jim, the entire time we've been doing the show, it's like, I think we started in like 2015. Yeah, Fender has been the dominant guitar company, which my entire childhood, from 2000 up, Fender was kind of like everybody knew Fender and most people liked them, but I felt like there were a lot of other companies people were buying. Ibanez was the big company when I was a kid, and the other one was Gibson. Like everybody had Les Pauls, and that's since died out. Because, of course, I grew up during nu metal, which is a big part of that. And Paul Reed Smith, right? So now it's gone Fender, 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 Fender. Everywhere I look, I see Fender guitars. And that is a testament to how good their marketing is. It's a testament to how they sit in the marketplace, how their guitars are perennially good. And I feel like this is going to be just another icing on the cake for them. Now, we usually don't have positive comments about a launch of products they do, because they do stuff like the Paranormal series, which just don't make sense. That's them trying to compete with Reverend, or somebody like that. It just doesn't make sense. They need to focus on the side of the market that's not just buying guitars and hanging them on the wall, and focus on the people that are playing them day to day. That is your core. These are the models that everybody loves and, we've sold for decades unchanged kind of thing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I think this is going to be a good launch for them. I think you kind of echo that sentiment. You were talking about incremental changes with like how I actually kind of disagree with that in a sense. I kind of want to touch on that briefly. So you're saying like each iteration of the iPhone has like marginal changes to the next iPhone, and that this is like an extension of what the Player series is. Now they got the Player Plus, and I don't. That denotes like passage of time. I think they already segment their lineup at any given time to be like, this price point gives you this, and this price point gives you this, and this price point gives you this.
Right, but remember, these were the deluxes. Mm-hmm. What they've done is they've done away with the deluxe and brought it to Player Plus. So really, you got to compare these two, not the Player, but the. Well, but
the deluxe is still around. So that's why I'm saying that's a little bit different.
No, they're doing away with them. That's just it. They're doing away with the deluxe. That's what Anderton said. Anderton said they're doing away with the deluxe.
Oh, so right. We're talking about the deluxe players. Okay, because
that's what I meant. Player.
I was thinking you were talking about the Ultra. This is them getting super complicated with the way that they've named their stuff.
Yeah.
Because they used to have the deluxe was the old Ultra under the older. Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Makes sense. Yeah. All right.
So they're getting away with doing away with the deluxe line, which was the one above the Player, and they're bringing these in. So they did away with that's what I was saying about they took away the heel joint, which is weird because some of the deluxes had the carved heel joint. And so, again, and this is the other thing that I was talking about. I think that the one thing they keep leaving off, there's always, and it's not always the same thing. There's just always one thing. Well, let's leave the heel carve off. Let's put this in there. Let's
one snag. Let's give them all these accoutrements, but let's leave off the stainless steel and let's leave.
Right. Because we want to give people this odd feeling that they have to buy the Deluxe Ultra.
Yeah, but that's a segmentation. So this is the difference between what Apple does and what Fender's done. Fender's setting up a lineup that they intend to sell stacked all at the same time, right? Whereas when Apple does it, they plan on phasing out older products like almost at the same time. Notice the time they do a product announcement, they've already closed out the other ones. So, or the 2 generations prior, or whatever it is. But that's basically like that's how they do their delineation of features. And if Fender was only offering like a finite number, I would totally agree with you. But I think I only sort of half agree with you. And I do think there's similarities between the stacked sales method where incremental steps up to the ladder of how much money you want to spend gets you how much features. And I think that's the way that pretty much every product gets sold, where you have these features. But the thing that sucks about it is they have so many products that these lines in the sand they're drawing are like, they're kind of hilarious. Here's this super modern playing guitar with a giant neck heel, right? 12-inch radius, all the accoutrements you'd expect on like a modern style guitar, except here's this giant neck heel. Like, what the hell? Now, here's what I think. And this is I'm glad we didn't transition away from this topic, because there was something that was brought up by you just a minute ago that just sort of like clicked something in my head. Who's Fender competing with right now? What is the guitar that like was a warning shot across Fender's bow in the last 5 years that made them kind of wake up and go, wait a minute, maybe we need to rethink about how we're approaching this? And it's.
Are you talking about the PRS, the
Silver Sky? I'll tell you why. Your average Strat player today, that's younger, right? Which is Fender is very young focused. They're not so much focused on the older side of the market as people think they are. Because they have diehards over there already. They don't really need to worry about satisfying those people at this point. They want to bring in new blood, which is why they have things like their guitar teaching thing that's aimed at millennials and younger, actually. So let's shift focus back to topic at hand. The PRS Silver Sky was a shot across their bow because all of those young players, they all like John Mayer. They all look at John Mayer like Eric Clapton. So they're looking at it and going, uh-oh, he just did a guitar with a giant neck heel. And it's got a lot of the features that we used to have. Like the 2-point bridge is very, very similar to the notched post bridge that PRS does, right? Right. It's very like, and a lot of the things that the Silver Sky has are very similar to Fender-esque stuff already, but they're not being done in a way that John could have had done at Fender. And if they do these features, Fender knows they're going to lose because they don't have anything to counter that. So when they built this guitar, I think there might have been a little bit of a talk about, is the neck heel a detriment or a feature? Because the Silver Sky stole like hotcakes with a freaking giant neck heel on it. And there's another guitar coming out of PRS that's a warning shot across Fender's bow with a giant neck heel on it. Which one is that? It's the Fiore.
Fiore?
The Fiore. Yeah. Which, from what I understand, is like pre-ordered out the ass. You can't get it.
It's good luck trying to get one of those.
Yeah, I mean, so it's the next Silver Sky, right?
Yeah.
So put that into perspective. If your target market is spending $2,000 on a competitor's guitar that's basically the same as what you've been offering with a few minor differences, you're going to start paying attention to that. And I think Fender sort of like made this guitar, and they're kind of looking at it and going, the neck heel isn't a detriment here. It's a tonal thing. We left the neck heel on here because we think certain people will actually like it. It's the same kind of people that would be willing to buy this guitar. Now, granted, there's a huge difference between a 12-inch radius and a 7 1/4. So I kind of wonder if that's not what's going on with this series, but I suspect that some of the other weirder Stratocaster style offerings we've been seeing lately are sort of like, yeah, we know we screwed up on that one. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't start seeing some 7.25 necks out of Fender. I think that's almost inevitable at this point. And the neck heel at some point, if you see in the marketing, neck heel provides extra tonal snap or something. It wouldn't shock me if you don't see that at some point in the next couple of years in marketing over there. But I think that's how this guitar happened without the rounded heel. The lower end rounded heel, not the big chamfer thing. Because they were looking and they're going, well, who are we compete with? The Silver Sky is the only thing we compete with, and quite frankly, that's got a giant neck heel on it. So maybe it's not that big an issue. And I think that's really how that conversation probably went down. Because it's...
You've got to wonder, is it because of John Mayer? I mean, because Mark Fiore is not... He's a name, but he's not as big a name. But
it's not Mark Fiore.
No, not Fiore. Mark Lettieri.
Yeah, yeah. Fiore means flower.
Yeah. Fiore is flower.
It was his daughter named the guitar. No, his daughter named it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
I just saw him recently. He's incredible.
Yeah, you saw his show. So
yeah.
My point is, he's not exactly a household name, but that guitar is flying out.
Yeah, because
not even getting to the shelves.
Because
it's flying out the doors before it can get to the shelves.
It's a circular. Look at it. It's a modern take on basically a Stratocaster.
Yeah.
It's a hum single with some attractive pickup switching options and attractive finishes. No pick guard.
Nope.
Gorgeous inlay and stuff, and like people are buying them. Big surprise, right?
Yep.
And it's
How about that?
And I bet you the average age of people buying the Fiore is probably lower than the people buying the Silver Sky, even.
Right.
By a year or two. Not tons, but like a year or two. Because there are older people that would still buy the Silver Sky.
Of course. I know a lot of older people that buy the Silver Sky.
Right.
Personally. But that said, the Fiore, I think, is in the, your average is probably going to be in the mid to early 30s.
Right. All right. Perfect segue. New segment. So we're talking about the Silver Sky and the Fiore. Let's talk about Prs Price Group, shall we? So PRS has been increasing prices for quite some time. I believe we've talked about this on the show before. So this is not a new topic. But
no.
I think it's worth actually having a conversation about what's going on with PRS prices. So I'm actually going to pull up Sweetwater so I can actually see sort of what prices are right now.
Yep.
And then I'm going to talk about some guitars I played today from PRS that I thought were fantastic. Okay. And I'm going to talk about their price point and kind of explain why I don't necessarily disagree with their pricing model. Even though I really don't want to pay that for a core. I sort of feel like I'm probably gonna at some point. I don't like that idea, but it is what it is, I guess. So, a true core model. Let's just look at they still have custom 22s in stock. Interesting. They discontinued the custom 22, if you didn't know.
Yep.
That's that's been a model forever. This is really wild that they discontinued that. At least to me. All right. So I'm looking for like a bare. There's a lot of piezo models on here. Here is a PRS. By the way, it's an awesome finish, and I just lost it because I made it full screen. I knew what the price was, and I knew what the finish was, but I don't want to get the listing wrong. So it's a PRS 35th anniversary custom 24 with pattern thin neck in orange tiger. $39.50. A 10 top version is $51.45. Let's see if we can find just a standard custom 24. Here's one. PRS custom 24 electric guitar with pattern thin neck. $4,000.
Yep.
Their core models are officially at the $4,000 price mark as of today.
Yep. The core I want is the Studio, and that's at like $4,700.
Right. and it's got
That's
it's got an extra pickup. I do want to take a brief moment to sort of explain. I don't actually think these prices are insane. I think these prices actually make sense to an extent. So I think when we started the show, a Custom 24 was like $3,450 or $3,300. They weren't $4,000 yet. They were creeping. Right. And we have watched them creep up like $150, $200 every year we've done the show. They hit 4,000 this year, and I think that's the magic number for me to freak out, because it's like, man, why are they going up so much? But they've been going up the entire time. It's something you don't notice. And this is happening to all brands. Every brand has to increase their prices once in a while. The interesting thing about PRS is because PRS is so indebted to the carved top, and the wood prices have been slowly going up over time, because a lot of this wood is being shipped to Indonesia for a certain guitar company to make guitars, and also to China, who's also making guitars for a certain guitar company that uses some pretty nice top woods from time to time. Not because of what we covered earlier, which is there's this crazy wood shortage going on and the wood tariffs are up and all this. You pay for the wood, they grind away. Like, that's what you have to remember. And PRS has these deep violin carves, and you're paying a lot of money for it. But the other thing is, I watched a video on the finishing process, and some of these finishes have like 12 steps. And it's like, sand the guitar, put on this finish, wet the guitar, put on this finish, or it's not a finish, but it's a stain, and then sand the guitar again, and then maybe apply water, and then let the water sit, and then wipe off the oil, and then like put on another stain. So it's for 2 coats, and they might have 10 coats, and you're going, what the hell? Like, it takes like 6 hours to stain it, and that's not even with the dry time involved. And so there's literally a tech working on this guitar for like, 4 hours or 5 hours staining your guitar. And that's before they even finish it. And then it hangs for a month or 2 months in finishing to dry properly, because now they're spraying nitro with a hardening agent. It would be even longer if they weren't using a hardening agent. And it's like, when you stop and you think about that, with the quality of guitars they put out, and if you haven't played PRS, like, please, just find a dealer, go in and play some. I'm not talking about SEs. I'm not talking about S2s. Play a couple core models. You'll see why they're $4,000. There's nothing. I have never had an experience with a guitar, what I would consider a production model, which these are no longer. I don't consider these production models as of today, because of the price point. Right? These are Les Paul custom territory now, which is a custom guitar. So when you go and you look at a Custom 24, ironically, and you play it, and you see the attention to detail, and you hear that resonance that happens because they match the bodies and necks, which a lot of manufacturers don't do, that's why you buy a $4,000 guitar. I mean, looks aside. Now, I know some people who have some very, they're very opinionated about the looks of PRS guitars. They're gaudy. And that if you get into the 10 top stuff, or if you go to Wood Library, it's all about looks and not about tonality. Or that they pick woods that look good but don't actually hold up. And some of that's on the buyer, right? Because they're picking the woods for looks, right? I would be the first guy to go to PRS and be like, do I want to do Wood Library? But Paul, I want you to pick the wood, and I want you to go out there, and I want you to find me the best sounding wood you have. I don't give a shit what it looks like.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. I love ugly guitars. Find me something that's fugly, that sounds like nothing you've ever built before, and I'll give you $10K for it. Just straight up. I don't even care what the wood is. Don't even tell me the species. It's not important to me. If it resonates, and all of them resonate together by playing a sympathetic vibration thing, because that's sort of what I've seen him kind of indicate that's going on. Go ahead. I'm all yours, man. But I think this is the only line of guitars that you can get that is quote unquote production line, right? Where they do resonance matching. And I'm gonna suggest something that I think a lot of people will think I'm just blowing smoke, because I obviously have an S2, right? So like, I'm creating my own echo chamber. No, I played an S2 today. I think I know I played other S2s in the past that did not play like mine, but I will say they do wood matching even at the S2 level. Like, it's really clear that the match of that wood. So I played a lot of Gibsons before I bought my SG, and I've never seen one that was like what I've seen out of an S2 even. Because, and granted, I probably haven't played a good one, but at least the PRSs seem to be really consistently good. Oh, yep. Great. Time for the cats to eat. Excuse me for a moment. And I have to get my headphones wrapped. My headphones are now wrapped around my chair. She can't get on for when she gets up there. Audience. Come on. I got it. Michelle, let go. I have you.
That's my dog when we pick him up. He's like...
She is...
I've got to.
She is taken to doing this over the last couple of days when she's hungry. And it's starting to drive me insane, because every time she does it, I freak out. This is the first time I've caught it on camera. So let me get my... All right. So, I played, like I said, I played a lot of Gibsons, and I wanted them to be good like that. My SG was pretty great. Okay, I'll level with you. That was a pretty special guitar, in that I played like 4 others in the same place, and I didn't like them. They didn't resonate right, and that one seemed to be better, right? And I played others since, and I played a couple of good ones, and I played some dog shit ones. So to each their own, right? Like, if you're comfortable digging through a pile of guitars, fine. But I think if you're gonna buy a guitar online, I think one of the few companies that you can just like buy and be like, you know what, it'll be decent. It won't be perfect, but it'll be decent. A good roll of the dice is probably PRS. Especially at the core level. Price creep aside, right? So we sort of have to accept, and I'm going to give you the floor here in a second, Jim. We sort of have to accept that PRS is just getting, and everybody's getting to the point where their prices are going to have to come up. I mean, now PRS's situation is a little different, right? So they're struggling to get enough guitars out the door to satisfy demand. And so I almost feel like the price hikes are like a reaction to that. Like, we can't produce anymore. We know we can't grow the company. So we're obviously going to have to get a little bit more exclusive so we can satisfy demand. All right, Jim. It's all yours.
Having owned PRS and owned Gibsons, I have a couple. And I've had pretty much just about as many PRSs. And I would probably have a CE if there are certain things. If I was a certain person looking for certain things, I would probably own a CE over a Strat, and that's a weird thing because the CE is not like a Strat. I mean, that single coil.
Yeah, they're very different animals.
Very different animals, and you can't put Stratocaster and Fender, Gibson. I grew up playing, loving, and enjoying certain songs and tones and guitars that were that way, and that was what I had and what I did. And I don't look at somebody who buys and spends $4,000 or $5,000 on a PRS and go, what an idiot. I don't see that at all. I see that as applying the money to the music that you want to create with the instrument and the tool that you want to create it with, and it is the best one. I think a lot of people put looks above the thing. They were talking about that with the iPhone today. It's funny that you mentioned it, because they were saying, yeah, for some reason the iPhone's always got to come out with a new color. And one of the people was saying, do you think people, when they were talking about the 13s and 13 Pros and the 240 Res, so the 13 does 120 or 60 hertz, the Pro and the Pro Max do 240 or 120, and they were talking about, do you think people would care about the size and the color more than and not worry about spending extra money? They would probably spend. Here was the thing. Guy goes, they'd probably spend $200 on a special color before they'd spend $200 on 120 hertz. So it goes right to what you were talking about. You tell Paul, go find me the two best matching sounding pieces of wood, make me a guitar out of that. Mm-hmm. That's what I want.
But the truth is, the aesthetics probably sell more than the actual feature upgrades.
Think about what just happened with the and it happens every year, by the way, with the Silver Sky. They came out with a new Silver Sky, and
it's a limited edition,
it's the exact
and they're
same
all sold to
guitar.
collectors. Not a single player buys them. They're all sold to collectors who are friends of dealers,
right.
and that's PRS builds those. And you know what ticks me off? So this is how I can be critical of a company that I own stuff from.
Right.
Here we go. Let's make a limited edition run of guitars. Yeah. When we can't sell, we can't produce enough to satisfy our dealers of regular models.
Right. Let's produce, what was it, 100 or 200 of the... It's ridiculous. And those are going to go into bags. Some of them won't even get... Most
of them are just going to go. They're going to go into a box, into somebody's closet, and they're never going to get played.
Never get used. No one will use them.
You know what's really funny is we talk about new old stock stuff today. Like occasionally you'll find like an old Dan Electro pedal in new old stock.
Yeah.
And I laugh because I'm like, you're going to have PRSs, these special editions and stuff that people bought and put up.
Yep.
Selling new old stock in like 15 years. Because the other thing is they're a limited edition, but that doesn't mean they have value. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I find kind of asinine about it. And then some of the guitars that they've done as limited edition that probably should have been made a model line, like the Vernon Reid signature that they did, just disappeared. Like, they did them as a limited edition. Yeah. They were only going to do it for 1 year. I mean, I guess, I don't know. That's actually one of the few guitars that I feel like kind of got away.
Yep.
And if I came across the right one for the right price, I believe that was an S2, an S2 Vela, but yeah, it was not, because it was only like, I think it was like $1,700. I'd probably snag that. So I want to talk about some of the new models I've played lately that I thought were really cool. So I played the SE Mira, which is the only way you can get a Mira now. And I gotta say, it's just as good as the S2 was. I played a bunch of S2 Miras, trying to convince myself that I really wanted a Mira, and I did want a Mira really bad, but I finally just kind of balked and said, you know what, I don't need a Mira. But the other one I played, which I'm gonna have a really hard time not buying. So Jim's, you got a 335 hanging back there.
Yep.
That's a semi-hollow.
Yep.
But it's not a semi-hollow like PRS does. So PRS does the CE and the custom 24 semi-hollows, and you can get those in the SE line, and I believe also the core line. Obviously, I don't know that they make one in the S2 line. Fine, not a big deal, right? But
yeah, that's weird. The S2 line doesn't have a semi-hollow.
The body, so I suspect they may at some point. Just right now, because that's meant to be a stripped back American guitar. Yep. I think they've kind of balked on that.
Yeah.
All right. So I ate a lot of dinner. I have to exhale a bunch.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, this is my dinner is popcorn.
oh yeah, eating on the show again, huh? We're gonna get some hate mail for that.
Yeah.
Not that I care, but
Nope.
we get plenty of hate mail on this show. If you're gonna send us hate mail on that, I mean, more power to you. That seems like one of the most ridiculous things to get hate mail for, but
Yeah.
I played the SE Hollow Body today, the Hollow Body 2, and the Hollow Body Standard. I didn't actually play the Standard. I played the Hollow Body 2. And that guitar was like nobody's business. I actually thought I was picking up an actual jazz box.
Those things are nice.
I can't believe that that's an SE.
I know. And it comes with a hard shell case.
Yeah. Well, it's an SE. It has to. It's a hollow body. It has to. They're not going to ship that in a bag. So let's talk about it for a minute. So like, my impression of the guitar was like, I thought, oh well, this is going to be like a real semi-hollow. This is going to play like a 335 and sound like a 335. First off, it plays nothing like a 335. It plays like a Stratocaster, okay, or a PRS Custom 24, like very PRS oriented, normal, not like it did not strike me as being a guitar that was hollow in any way.
Nope.
Because I play jazz boxes. I have an Ibanez Art Core, it's actually my kid's guitar, and I played it a lot. And
I like those guitars.
They're great guitars. I mean, if you want a jazz box, like that's the guitar line to go get because they're cheap. And they're really well made for what they are. But the thing is, like those jazz boxes, they have like a nut that's cut like an acoustic, and so they are typically a little bit higher action, and they're a lot harder to play than a Telecaster or something like that. Whereas the PRS Hollow Body 2 is like, hey, you just want to play a PRS is hollow? It's like, what? And then you pick it up and you play it, and you're like, holy crap! It's addictive. Now, I put it through the Fillmore they had at Good Time. So Good Time is a PRS dealer. If you want a PRS, reach out to them. They often have them in stock, even when other places don't. I was playing the Hollow Body 2 through the Fillmore, and just ate like the jazz blues stuff, the cleanish stuff. So I'm sitting there and I'm playing for probably 15 minutes, clean stuff. And I looked at Jeff, who's sitting there, and I said, I bet this thing howls when you put it on distortion because it sounds like a big jazz box, and I it's like feedback's really bad. And he looks and he laughs and he says, no, he's like, it's just like a PRS. Flip it over and there's tons of bass, but everything else is just fine. No feedback, no whining, no just a really big, lots of 400 hertz-ish territory tone, and a lot of bass. I mean, you'd shelve bass. If you're going to use that as your primary guitar, you're probably going to run it through a tube screamer so you can just cut all bass. But for drive. But wow, I was just like, this is an $1,100 guitar.
I know.
Couldn't believe it. So
I know, right?
As much as I said, like, I don't want to buy another PRS and like, not right now, like I'll get a custom later. I think it's far more likely I'm going to buy an SC Hollow Body 2 before I even look at getting a custom. Because it's something I don't have. It's something I don't have. Like, I don't have a Hollow Body. I've never even had I never had a desire for one. Until today.
When I bought that, I had it up against, there were 3 guitars in the running. And they really were apples and oranges. The 335, I had the PRS SE Hollow Body, and I can't remember what the other one was.
And you're talking about the core level Hollow Body, right? Not the SE?
No, it was the SE.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the SE in there. So I had SE Hollow Body 2, the 335. Oh, I can't remember what the other one was now. Save my life. But
McCarty?
The important thing was,
McCarty?
No, because they were all 3 hollow bodies.
Well, there's a hollow McCarty, isn't there?
There is a semi-hollow McCarty.
Okay.
It's got one side that's routed out, and it is a beautiful guitar. Anyway, so it then came down to the two. It really came down to the SE.
There is a hollow body McCarty, my friend.
Oh, there is a fully hollow body?
Full hollow.
Is that core? Is that a core model?
That is a core model, and they range from $4,800 to $6,100. But man, they look amazing.
They do. So, that was way out of my price range.
Mine too.
So I was
sell a kidney.
I had the guitars lined up, and the truth of the matter is, now, this is coming from a guy who loves Gibson. You can play 5 ES335s, and they will not be exactly the same. Don't expect to go grab your friend's ES335 because it sounds the same. Even if they're made in the same years, they've got one on my Guitar Center right now. It's super light, a lot more acoustic resonance. But to be honest with you, through an amp, I don't really feel it the way I feel this one. So what I did was the SE and the 335 had really good, solid, low end. They both had a punch. They both had a lot going on. There was just something about the SE that the 335 had, the SE didn't have, when it came to playing it through my rig and the way I play. And so, and I had a friend of mine too. He was like, man, I played a lot of 335s. This one's got something. And so that's why I bought it, because I played a couple other ones and they didn't have that. And it's unfortunate because the thing that Gibson does, we talked about Fender, right? This is the thing that Gibson used to do. They're not doing it anymore. I really respect that, at least in the last 3 years, is every effing year, you'd have a different set of pickups in a freaking guitar.
Yeah.
And so you had to go, okay, let's see, that's a 2017.
Yeah, but you know what?
Where'd you buy it from? Oh, did you get it in the beginning of the year or the end of the year?
But just as a brief aside, the reason why that was happening was because they couldn't get a hit, and HJ was just literally, he was just throwing shit against the wall to see what stuck.
Yeah, and so that's what I love about now. At least you're going to walk in. If you get, I keep pointing to where it ain't hanging. If you get a 29, if you get a 50 standard, it's going to be a solid guitar. It may weigh more than you want, but you can still find light ones. Mine's 8.5 pounds, almost exactly, and that's with the strap. But anyway, it's going to be a solid guitar. It's going to have the Bucker Pros in it. That's it. You're not getting locking tuners. You're not getting anything special. It is a 50s Les Paul the way people want 50s Les Paul. The 60s one is the same. If you get the SG, it's the same. If you get, and the 335s have T-tops. I have a friend of mine. He's got a custom shop 335 from the 2000s. He was like, if you ever sell that 335, I want it. He goes, that thing. He goes, what'd you put in there? I go, nothing. Strings. I put strings on it. He goes, come on, those are not stock pickups. I go, yeah, they are. And so that's really speaks to that core of what they've done as far as making them better players and better guitars. So yeah, I like that.
They have brand consistency, but like guitar to guitar consistency is different. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their weak point. That's their Achilles heel.
Yep. That's exactly right. Guitar to guitar consistency of neck feels and, I picked up the weird thing was the good and the bad of it was when I picked up my custom, I was like, wow, this neck is really small. and I had to get used to playing it, because it felt a little thinner. And it might be a 60s neck, and it might just be something that I got to get used to. But, but as you said, they're guitar to guitar. There's the inconsistencies, and that is something that's why I recommend playing them. PRS is going to have inconsistencies. Don't get me wrong; they're very good inconsistencies.
Absolutely, but it's like we were talking about it at the store today, and it's just my general sensation is like they are consistent in that they're all good, but they're not consistently great. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're still looking for one that's better than the rest, but even if you buy the rest, they're going to be pretty damn good to begin with. Whereas I feel like there's more turds floating in the pond from Fender and Gibson and, you know, the other brands than when you go to a PRS dealer and you grab 3 PRSs off the wall. They're all going to be good. Maybe one of them won't be as nice looking. Maybe one of them won't be as resonant. You know, maybe one of them needs, it has a finish flaw or something because it's an S2. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's not deal breaking stuff. Like where I've played both Les Pauls and I'm not talking about Epiphones. I'm talking about Gibsons, Les Pauls and SGs in the past, not current, because hell, you can't even go play current stuff right now. Where you're kind of like, how did this one pass quality control? You know, and it's not just the factory setup. Like there's literally something wonky about the guitar where I've seen like a finish crack coming out from where the post in the bridge is mounted, or tooling marks in the neck, which is something we've talked over and over about. Like that's a huge problem that they have right now, which they need to clean up because it's going to leave a dirty stain on the company. And the other thing I've seen a lot of, and it's just a fit and finish issue, so it's like it's really minor, but it's like the leftover wax. And I'm not talking about, you had that on your 335 in the pocket there where the neck meets the body.
Yeah, the buffing compound.
I've seen it coming out from under the pickups and stuff. And it's like, sitting on the guitar, it's like a white splotch where somebody put white out on it or something, and you're going, what the hell? Did anybody wipe this thing down before it left the factory? So, yeah.
I've seen that. I it's amazing to me.
I think the reason for that one though is like if the guitar gets hot in transport, then the wax is going to melt. And it's already stuck up underneath there,
and it's gonna go to a place where it can sit. So that's normal. So when I got, of course, it was an SE, but when I got my SE, it had a spot on it, and Sweetwater told me, they said when you get it, just wipe it off. If it doesn't come off, we'll take some more money off of it. But it came right off. I just wiped it. But the 335, that's a little bit harder because remember, Gibson's buffing compound is meant to do what? Remove finish. So when you're taking that shit off, you want to just sit there and I'm just gonna go. Whoops! There goes my nitro. Now I got a big fingerprint.
You can't use alcohol on it. Nope. You can't use isotope. I was it what do they call it? The stuff, the finger polish remover. I forget what they call it.
Oh, acid.
Anything with acetone in it will just eat right through the guitar. I mean.
So yeah, I was very, very careful with a lint-free rag. And I'll be honest with you, I would rather live with a little bit. There's just a little bit in the nook and cranny between.
It's a minor. It's, as I said, that's a fit and finish issue. But like when you see things like a crack coming out from under where where they drilled the bridge insert in, how did it make it out of quality control?
Yeah. Now a lot of those, I got to be honest with you. So when they wind up at Guitar Center or they wind up at Sweetwater, that's one thing. But when they put them on the demo shop, which sometimes they do, and a lot of them they do, be surprised. If you're okay with that kind of thing, if you're okay with those little things, you can save several $100s going to the demo shop.
Yep. And
so you can look up Gibson Demo Shop at Reverb. You can also go to the Gibson Demo Shop on their website and look. And there's a white Alpine Custom Les Paul. It just had a few more dings and dents that I wanted to put up with. It's $1,000 off. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so
and like the crack issue, inject some glue in there. Done. Problem solved. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. It's not a deal breaker.
That big a deal. And a lot of times, if you point these things out to the places, they can contact Gibson. And this is the thing that a lot of them won't do. I think Sweetwater more than Guitar Center. The Sweetwater would just say, you know what? fine. And what they do is they just contact Gibson. They go, hey, look, here's this from a customer. And because Gibson does this. But and I'm not saying they should. The guitar shouldn't have got out of the wild in the first place. That should have been a QA issue before. I don't think Guitar Center is as willing to contact them and go, hey, customer saw this. Do you want us to take the guitar back? You give us a new one. Or do you want us to take a couple $100 off? Because Gibson would likely throw that off because they know they don't want to take it back.
I historically have seen more scratch and dent deals from Guitar Center direct than I do Sweetwater, which leads me to believe, because they're selling similar amounts of guitars, it leads me to believe that they're doing a little bit more of the quality control. We got this B stock dent over here. We're gonna sell that direct and anyway. So all right. We've covered that topic. The price creep is real. You're going to see it on other brands. We've already seen it on Gibson.
It's in Fender. I mean, those that's one way you destroyed the deluxe series. You put it on our series in. You bring the price up by $150, $200.
All right. Let's do our gig report. So I did Open Jam. I think I talked a little bit about that this week, and it was good. I do have one funny story to share from that, which I think these are good moments of levity for the show. So I was talking to the host, and we kind of know each other at this point, and I'm kind of going back and forth, and he says, he's asking me about the band I played in, and I told him, I said, man, I had to play some songs I swore I'd never play, and one of the ones that came up, of course, is Margaritaville. I hate that song.
I played that twice this week.
So,
go ahead.
So he sprang it upon me. There's a guy that sings there every week, and it's usually just him and the piano, but he wanted to do Margaritaville. And he said, well, let's get the band up here for that. That's an easy tune. So he calls me up, and I'm like, oh, God, I really don't want to play this song, Sam. And he looks at me, and he's like, you know it, though. And I'm like, so I go over and I start setting my gear up. I've got my little pedal board. I got my amp, and I hook them up. And at this point, the drummer's already starting to kind of kick a little bit, and I'm like, guys, I need like another minute and a half here. So I don't even get, I get everything plugged in. I don't even get to tune up. Okay. And I'd already tuned at my seat, but I always check when I get on stage, and because you're banging your stuff around, getting up on stage and all that. And I get up on stage and I go to hit the first chord. Of course, what do you think is going to happen, Jim? Because the band starts playing, and Sam does the little lead in, and the bass player doesn't know the song. So he doesn't really actually know what's going on. And I can't hear him too, which is even worse. He's not coming through the monitor at all. So all I have to work with are the vocal. Guy's a decent singer, and I got Sam's keyboard, which is lightly coming through my monitor. And I go, I've got the chords up on my phone because I'm like, I need to look at I need to look at the chorus. Now there's more than 3 chords in that song because there's D's and D7s, there's a A C sharp of the bass. So there are, if you play it the right way, you can play it very simplified, but
I don't just strum it, so I know what you're talking about because I'm typically playing the So I know what you mean.
So I'm looking at the chords, and my phone is not big enough to show me the whole lead sheet, so I'm just kind of guessing in places. Yep. And I know that when I started on A instead of D. So that was my first mistake. Because I was sitting in the chair and I was thinking about, he told me I'm playing this. I'm like, it's A, D, or it's A, D, and then it's G, A, D, which that's correct, right? And then D7, and then G, A, D, D7, and then G, A, D, A7, or A with a C sharp in the bass, G, and I'm
by that point I'm playing a bunch of dyads, so
right. So it's I'm gonna hit the chords because I know the chords, and I can play some
chord tones.
I can play some Malasa, but I'm already off my rocker at this point because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, they've already started. I'm in the middle. I'm not sure where we're at in terms of the vocal, but I know that the chords, this chord sounds right. So I'm like, play the A, and I'm like, this is wrong. Play the D. Because I know there's only 2 chords for the verse, right? So like, I know, play the D, get to the big part. I'm like, and I'm kind of flustered at this point. I'm like, what the hell is the chord that the chorus starts on? Shit. E. No, G, you moron. And then I'm like, G, D. No, A. And then D, and it just gets this like discombobulated mess. So then I'm like turning around, I'm looking at my chart on my phone. I totally blow the A, C sharp, and the bass, right? And like I have this level of detail because this was traumatic for me. And then Sam looks at me after the first chorus, and he has this look on his face like, I thought you said you knew this. And then he points at me to solo, and I start soloing in A.
Oh no!
It sounds awful. A major pentatonic. It sounds awful. So then I'm like, well, shit. What do I do now? So I defaulted to like, this note sounds okay. Like, let's work on this instead of what I should have done, which is like, well, there's only 2 chords, so in the verse, so like, it's got to be D, right? So then I'm trying my other approach, and it's just sounding awful, like I'm playing like the wrong freaking notes, and I'm starting to have a panic attack over it because I'm like, what in the hell am I doing? And everybody in the room who's seen me before knows this dude knows how to play. What the hell is going on here? And I'm just laughing at this point, like visibly, like kind of cracking up. And I'm like, all right, we'll switch to D. So I don't know what I did then because I wasn't playing in D. I switched to D, but I think I went to C instead. Like I hit the wrong fret. And I'm like doing a minor pentatonic in the right, trying to do it in the right position kind of thing for a major. The regular, minor pentatonic box shifted down 4 frets. And I'm just like, I just said, fuck it. I like honestly got that far, and then Sam looked at me and I was like, I'm done. I just did that. He goes back to playing the piano part, and we finished out the song, and then like listening to the bass player and the drummer's way too loud. It's like John Bonham on this song, right? And Sam keeps turning around. He's like, dude, you gotta volume down the drums. Like, this is a very live, active room. Quiet. And the bass player's just, he's got this look like deer in the headlights. He has no idea how to play this song. And I think the bass player was actually screwing me up because I'm listening to the harmony, and then when I focused in on the piano, I could tell what chords are being played and kind of follow along. The second chorus I did okay on, and then it was like very rocky after that, but it was because not everything was working properly from the other side of things, and I was playing by ear because my charts weren't, I couldn't even see them. They weren't big enough. They're tiny phones sitting on my amp, 6 feet away. I finally just said, no, the hell with this. Like, we'll just play along and get over. So, finish the song out, and I'm like, well, this is, start of another shitty open mic or open jam, because I've been going to these, and I've been getting really frustrated with myself because I haven't been playing well. And I was talking to some people this week, and they were kind of like, why are you taking this shit so seriously? Like, it's just a, and I use this phrase because I actually said it. I was like, it's just a hang with like other musicians where you play music. Like, you shouldn't even think about it as being like, I have to perform and I have to be firing on all 8 cylinders. I am always conscious that I'm like looking for the next band situation to be in, but I tend to forget, like, when you go through one of those situations, that it's more about how you handle it. And the fact that I was just sitting there laughing about it, like, wow, like, what the hell happened there? And then we turned around and we played, we called up the next band. I of course stayed up, and then we played Breakdown. And the guy, I was like, I was kind of testing him because I was like, well, the chords on this. He goes, A and G. And I said, what's the bridge?
There's a turnaround.
What's the bridge? And he goes, he plays the C dyad, the top 2 notes from C, and then he moves it up, the 3 frets or whatever. And I'm like, fair enough. I knew that part already, right? So I actually knew the song. And then he says, I was like, isn't there another chord in there? And he goes, I don't think so. He's like, it's just AG, and then there's like there's a stop. And I'm like, okay. So we start playing, right? And like he starts out and he does the little lead line thing in the beginning, and he doesn't do a great job of it. And then I made sure I stuck it in my solo. So he
I would.
Singer comes up. She's fantastic as always. I've played with her several times there, and actually she usually gets paired with the same guy. And we played Breakdown last time, and they didn't know it, and I was like, well, I guess we'll just go through this rocket ship again. And they're getting better. Like, they're getting more in tune. We had a better drummer this time. Of course, Sam was still turning around like, take it down. Like, he's too loud. Anyway, we start playing, and he gets through his part or whatever, and it's like, it's okay. And I hit the F during the breakdown part, you know. And he kind of looks at me like, why were you asking about the chords? You know, 'cause he's like, I didn't know that chord was in there. And I'm just laughing because I'm like, well, Sam's playing. I leaned over and I go, well, Sam's playing an F, so I'm playing an F. You know, it's like, he's like, got this weird look on his face, like, how did you know that? And he's like, I didn't even know that. So then he gets asked to do a solo. He does his little like noodly thing, and of course then he actually nods to me, and I just take off into orbit, you know, and I'm playing probably the tastiest guitar I've played in years that night. Like, everything I did just seemed to like be in the right zone of fitting the song, right? And I think it was because I wasn't consciously trying to impress anybody, not even myself. I was just trying to have a good time. Like, I was like, all right, fine, let's do this. And we played a couple of blues tunes. And we play, one of them is that Tracy Chapman tune. I forget what the name of it is, but it's the 5 and the 4 inverted.
Yep.
And then another guy gets up. This is where we're leading with this whole conversation, by the way. This is my favorite one. So I'm going to ask you a question, Jim. I have a feeling you'll know the answer. If you're going to play All Along the Watchtower, what key would you put that song in? There are two possible answers to this.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, so what chords are you using to play the song? I mean, is the original?
So, yeah. So I assume somebody says Watchtower. The definitive version is the Jimi Hendrix version. So I assume we're going to do the Hendrix version, right? But I always ask, because I'm not an idiot.
Because that's right.
I'm like,
because I've had people play it in different keys. I'll play it.
What are we going to play? Are we playing the Hendrix version? Or are we playing the... and I guess there's other versions other than the Hendrix one too. Or the Dylan version, which are the popular ones.
Yep. Now,
guy says, I won't say his name. He's a good dude. I hope he's listening to the podcast, because I told him about it. But he says to me, he says, we're going to play it in G. No.
Okay.
What did he say? He said, yeah, no, he did. He said G.
Okay.
And then he started playing it, and I go, I thought you said you were playing it in G. I thought you said you were playing it in G. He goes, it's in G. And I said, what's the first chord? Because I knew, like, I'd figured this out. I'm like, what's the first chord?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, A.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's go. And then he's like, he's starting to wonder if I can play it right, which he's played with me before. It's like, come on, dude, for real. And he looks at me and he goes, you want to play Black Magic Woman instead? And I'm like, no, I want to play Watchtower. like no, yeah, you done piqued my interest, my friend. We're playing Watchtower. I don't care what key you put it in. You tell me which 3 chords you're doing. You know, like, we're good. We got this. So he's like, it's an A. And then I just strum the chords real fast. So I'm like, so like this, right? And he's like, okay. So then we start going. And I don't think he knew what was going to happen because I just went off. Like, that's a song I do. I sing that song and everything else.
Right.
So not realizing, I think the mic in front of me was hot. I'm just standing back there, just belting it out, as I'm playing. Like, and I think it was actually going up the mains. And of course, he's the singer, singer guitar player. So,
Right.
he's like, he looks to me for the first solo, and I'm like, dude, you don't even have to signal me. Like, I know what the hell's going on here. Like, come on, dude. And taking way longer solos than I probably should be, and nobody complaining about it either. And I'm just like, I was like, yeah, that's the win I needed. I didn't need Sam to call me up and play Margaritaville. I needed somebody to call me up and play Watchtower, and whatever damn key he wants to play it, and I don't care. I mean, it's if you don't know, the chords for that song are like the easiest chords ever. It's like the most common chord progression for any like big rock song. But
I just find it interesting. He said it was a G. I mean, so he brought it down a full step. Well, no, a half step, I guess.
The original key is in the Dylan version, because the Dylan version is actually in G.
Right. So he was playing it,
but he played it in A. It's the first key's in A.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
So A, G, F, G, A. Like
exactly.
And then he's like, I asked somebody. We were talking about this. What key is in?
I'm used to people playing it in C.
It's
C
in
minor.
C minor,
Right.
Correct. But I'm laughing because I had a conversation with somebody this week. I don't remember who it was, and they said it's a C sharp, isn't it? No, it's in C.
Yeah.
And he actually, I think he played it in flat tuning on the record, but you can approximate it on a standard tune guitar because there's not really any open strings in there that are critical to make the song work.
Because you're playing everything up in the upper frets.
Right. There probably is open notes in there somewhere, but like,
I don't know if he played that in a down tune, like a half step down. I mean, there's no reason to, but I guess to make it so the A is open.
Well, that first bend would be in a weird fret to be on the 13th.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Weird.
So that's why I was always like, I figured he probably played that on the 12th.
Yep. And which leaves it in standard tuning.
Right. So, well, it would be 13 on standard tuning and 12 on flat tuning.
Flat tuning, yeah.
So, not that it's like very different, but it just seems like, people tend to gravitate when they play guitar. They tend to gravitate towards the fret markers.
That's
Do you know what I mean? Like that's so. I'll play it in C sharp minor. You'll play in C sharp minor all day long, no problem. I'll sing it in C sharp minor. I don't give a shit. It's not a hard song to sing even. So, it's what a great tune. And of course, they did all the spacey like.
What's funny is after he covered All Along the Watchtower,
Neil Young did it
Dylan
too.
Heard it, and Dylan heard Hendrix's version. Dylan started playing it Hendrix feel, which I think it's both cool and funny.
Yes,
at the same time.
Yes, and they both sort of sang it the same way. Same rhythm anyway of how they sang it.
Yeah.
So that's half my gig report. So that all happened. I've got another gig coming up. I was informed that I will be playing at a campground gig like you did, Jim. Big festival.
Nice. This will be cooler.
With the old Stumpy guys, and at least some of the old Stumpy guys. So I'll be making a trek down to southern Illinois. Central Illinois. Around October 1st. I don't actually know when the date of the show is. I probably should have that so I can actually make an announcement. But we're going to be playing at a big festival down there. I don't even know the name of the festival. Damn. I just found out about it, so that's part of the reason why. And I don't even know if I'm playing acoustic. So I busted out my acoustic this afternoon. I was playing my acoustic because I'm like, I better get ready. If I got to get my chops up, like I need to be ready for this. And I know how grueling that could be, especially if you end up playing like a 2-hour set or something.
Yeah. Well, I just got my acoustic back. It got fixed by finally gives it a sent out the part. Guitar Center put it in, and yay, it's fixed.
What was
So I
wrong with it?
played my
It was a
acoustic.
piezo part or something?
Yeah, the piezo completely. Yeah, they
Okay.
replaced the whole thing. Put on a whole new one. Which,
Yeah.
and because this one was a 2018, they gave me the 2021 piezo.
The new.
So I got the nicer Fishman or LR Bags piezo. I mean, I had an LR Bags before, but this is the nicer one.
Yeah, right.
So he was surprised. He goes, "Wow, they sent me the real nice one to put in there." The guy at Guitar Center, so that was real nice. I had a gig. I had a couple gigs since the last time. I've had a few gigs actually since the last
Actually,
time.
I had one more thing to share, if you don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead.
So I've been doing sound for. I might have mentioned I did sound for Bronson Rock in the last episode. They played at Obscurity Brewing in Elburn, Illinois, and they asked me to come out, and it was, I didn't even really I wasn't expecting to get paid or anything, and I got paid in food, which is great. Their food was awesome, and they just treated me like a member of the band while I was there. So I put together, basically just did, with their little bitty mixer, did the best I could. Sounded really good. It was louder than they were expecting. But if they're not going to yell at me, I'm going to crank it. Because that's the way that rock music is supposed to be listened to. And quite frankly, when you're competing with drums, you got to get the volumes up. And so it sounded really good. And then I got asked back. So actually, I went out last night and did another show for them. And I got graciously paid for it. It was an interesting venue. It was basically a fenced in, wooden fence, picket fenced in area behind a club, a supper club, which may be a Midwestern only concept for those of you that don't know. It's just basically a restaurant. And it's like an exclusive restaurant. And it was just an interesting show altogether because we had some challenges with how the equipment was set up, and it was a nice stage there. But interesting patrons, so for those of us who are listening to the show, if you don't gig, you probably have never even thought about this being a challenge. But when you are in a band and you set up all your gear and you play a show, you think you're just going to tear stuff down and be done, right? And throw it in the back of your trunk, take your check, and go home. So this is what happened to us. And I'm not going to divulge names. I'm not going to go down that path. But there was a gentleman there that had had too much to drink. And he was definitely challenging to us. We were starting to tear down. And me and Mike Bear, the guitar player for Bronson Rock, started to... basically, we were ripping things apart, and the other guys were talking to people, friends and stuff that were there. And everybody, it's just like a cool, chill atmosphere when your band's breaking down. Anyway, this guy's standing on cables at the front of the stage. And, having a conversation. And I'm like, dude, I really need to get to those cables. I don't want to be here until, 1 o'clock in the morning. So, behind him, on a camera tripod, is the recorder that they use to capture their audio so that they can listen back to the show. I pull a cable he is standing on. He lifts his foot, loses his balance, backs up, hits the tripod. I dive 6 feet, maybe 8 feet. 2 steps, 2 full steps, and dive. And grab this thing before it hits the ground. Okay? That's how good my reflexes are at 1 o'clock in the morning, or I think it was midnight, 12:15, on a Saturday night, because I do not drink when I work, and I considered that work. I was being paid, and I'd already received some of the money at that point, and I was like,
right,
we're not going to screw around with this. So I was explaining this story to someone else today, and they asked me the question. They said, "Why do you put up with that?" And I, like somebody that acts that way or behaves that way. And I said, number one, the guy's drunk. So what am I going to do? Am I going to fight him? I was like, because that's the reality of this. If I'm a jerk to him, I say, dude, you need to get off the cables. The guy's going to get belligerent. Okay, he's drunk. If I wait for him, you know, I could be there all night. So it's like, what other choice do you have? Now, Jim, you've dealt with people like this. I know you have. It's just a reality of the gigging musician. So actually, I already sort of have a way to deal with this next time. If I'm there to set up, I will bundle the cables with a little bit of gaffer tape and make sure they are attached to the stage and not on the ground where somebody can stand on them. And I will probably be picking up extra XLR lengths to make sure that we have enough cable to actually have slack in certain places so that nobody is prone to tripping or anything like that. And I am not infallible. Like, even though I was there, you know, I did this crazy maneuver to save the thing. I will admit I made 2 massive mistakes in running sound that night. I left the mains down after they started to perform the second set, which I am told is like the most common sound guy mistake ever. And for most people, it only happens once. I will explain how this happened, and I'm using this as a word of caution for anybody listening. Obviously, this is a long episode, Jim. I'm going to give you plenty of time here in just a second. This happened. I had earplugs in because I'm sitting literally right next to the mains. I had my plugs in, and I actually was sitting there. I was just kind of chilling because I had the set list, and I knew what songs were next, and I'm kind of like, this isn't going to be a big deal. Like, everything's set pretty much the way it should be for the next song. And they had just played another song off of the wedges, and I didn't realize it because the guitar was clean. It wasn't boosted. The first thing that happened, they started to play All Along the Watchtower, their version of it. And the first thing that happened was he goes to start playing the chords, and the guitar's way louder than the vocal. I'm going, oh, what the hell? And like, it didn't dawn on me at first. I was sitting in the chair and I was kind of relaxing because I'm like, this is an easy song. Just kind of, and I'm really tired. It's late at night. I will bring coffee next time. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh man, like, what in the hell? And then it dawns on me, like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Like, the vocal's quiet. So I go over to the board and I adjust the vocal mic. And then I'm like, I'm not hearing any change. Like, what the hell? And then I look down and I'm like, oh, holy shit. The mains is all the way down. I'm like, turn it up. And everybody in the venue starts clapping. And I'm like, oh, crap. I just smiled because I'm like, I don't want anybody to know how embarrassing this really is. This is like really bad stuff. But after they got done, I was like, I'm sorry about that, guys. And bass player, Matt, comes up to me and he says, don't feel bad. He's like, I did that at the show one time for the entire second set. He's like, we didn't realize it until we went to listen to the board tapes.
Yeah. Yeah, and you go, what the?
I'm like, I know I had stuff like that happen to me when I was younger, but like, you guys brought in a guy to take care of this for you, and I just totally screwed that up. I felt so bad. And so my apologies to Bronson Rock for that one. And then I think earlier in the show, I had left somebody's microphone muted, not realizing he'd swung it around and he'd started to sing. But then, but the funny part is I brought it up and somebody in the band goes, "Nah, I probably just forgot to turn the switch on." And I'm going, wait a minute. You mean I don't have to mute that thing? Like, he's got a switch on the mic so he can turn it off and swing it back around because he's a drummer, right? So he can turn it off and swing it back behind him.
Yep. And
it never occurred to me that was the thing. Like, that he had, because you don't buy mics with switches. No, I that's like the sound guy thing. A lot of sound guys don't want people to buy mics with switches.
Right.
So it is what it is. I made a mistake. I made a pair of mistakes, and they were really funny. Jim, take it away.
So I had, I'm going to be real quick. I had a couple of gigs. I guess a gig isn't good if somebody doesn't bust into a bar fight. So we had 3 bar fights during one of them. Couple of the guys, I'll take you on. Literally right out of a South Park comic. It reminded me of the Bro Down. If you look up South Park for the Bro Down, where Randy takes on.
As long as they keep it in the audience.
Yeah.
Keep it like 8 feet from the band and it's fine.
And I'm trying to remember the song. Oh, it was Friends in Low. We were actually playing Friends in Low Places when it came on, so it was very, very good, very funny. But yeah, we had a Bro Down. Then another one kind of got hairy, and another one somebody got their lights punched out. So that was pretty good. Then the next gig we did was at a 55 and older place, and I want to say something about this because a lot of people are going to be negative. They're going to go, "Oh, 55 and older." Those people were rocking out. They were enjoying the heck out of it. And
Who
we
cares?
Played new stuff.
It's a paying gig.
That's right. It was a paying gig. We did our thing. They enjoyed the heck out of it. It was really fun. Well worth the time and the effort. But it poured rain right up to the minute right before we started. And it was outdoors, but not really. It was underneath a thing. So imagine a hotel with like a big, those grandiose openings in the center. Only that was completely open.
I had the exact same thing happen at that first Bronson Rock show I did. It poured rain for like 30, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, right? Just enough that everybody had to throw towels over things, and I literally stood over the board like this to keep water from going on it.
We got through. Luckily, it was more about trying to get the equipment to the location, because we had to go from the parking lot through a breezeway into the opening to where we were underneath. But it was fun. It was hot. Oh my God, it was hot. It was so hot. But I brought my Strat. That's why the Strat's in the case. Brought my Stratocaster for that one, because I was told, well, we're gonna have to watch our volume. As you can tell by my voice, we did not watch our volume at all. They loved us. We were loud, and we were screaming, and we were having a blast. So it was a lot of fun. I think I'm really enjoying doing what I'm doing with the guys. We do a song called Stars by Grace Potter and the Nocturnals. It's not a real rocker, but what's interesting is how even when they do it, whether they do it live or they did it in the studio, the solo is relatively the same. I mean, it's not exact every time, but it's really the same. But what I found was amazing. So, song is in A minor. This is one of those songs, like you said, what's the key? I thought you were going to give me this kind of thing. Song is in A minor, but you play C major over A minor. And it resolves every time the chord change goes, it resolves to C. So it begins in A minor, but resolves to C. And then it has, to add insult to injury, it has a point where you're actually going from C through G. So it's actually kind of one of those songs that doesn't really push you into either key. And then, like I said, the solo, you start in A minor pentatonic. You have like a little that bluesy, that thing everybody does at the beginning of an A minor solo. Where you're up at the 5th fret, you bend the 7th fret of the G string up to the 9th fret.
I'm never doing that again, by the way. You just brought that up, and then if everyone does it, I can't do it.
Yeah, and it's done all the time, right? And then you land on that 10th, or at least a tone of the 10th fret of the B string. So you're landing on an A. Or at least you're either going to, bend up or you're going to slide into it. But either way, you're going to end on an A. So, but then there's this whole long thing where you go C major. You literally go, it's kind of cool because you go do, re, mi. Then you go mi, re, fa. And then you go so la. And you keep going up, but you go back to this. And what's funny is you go back to the second tone. So you play 3 tones, go back to the second tone, play 3. But then, because they knew they were going to run out of space, and I thought this was really well done, really well crafted. Then it jumps, it stays on the 3rd tone, you jump. What you do is you go do re mi, you bend into fa, then you go re mi fa so, and then you go so la di do, but then it goes do re mi fa so la do di do. It just keeps walking up till you hit the highest C. And if you have an acoustic, you know what you find out? You don't have that note. It's not the acoustic.
Yeah, or you have to like get over your hand is like literally over the top of the top, and you're doing this thing.
You're doing this,
which I have done that many a time.
Yeah,
I was doing that today actually.
Yeah, and so it ends on what, the 18th fret of the.
I was playing the Hendrix version of Watchtower on my acoustic, and so that last note's like the 21st fret or whatever. It's just like.
And I found that interesting and cool, kind of cool, because of the way that they must have planned that out, because it's actually, and here's a funny thing, it's actually if you have two guitar players that know how to play it, it's a harmonized solo. And they stay in thirds.
I was going to say, that sort of sounds to me like the picture of the stairways that come from all directions. That sort of sounds like the musical equivalent of that.
Right. Yeah, that who was the painter that did that?
I don't remember. It's a famous, like, you can go look it up. I'm sure you write it in a stair picture and you'll see it.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Hogwarts, I think, is trying to do.
Yeah, right.
When they have the stairways that come together.
It's some shit from Inception, okay?
Yeah, it's Inception. Yep. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun. Al got out there. Actually, somebody said, you know what? You should call it ramen. I said, why is that? He said, because you're only going to be able to eat ramen noodles for a while. So I think its name is now ramen.
That's funny. So, Al and Raymond, he's referring to Raymond as his Alpine White Les Paul Custom, folks.
And I can only afford ramen noodles.
So listen. So we know that the other ones are like Goldie and Pearl or whatever, and everybody and people have commented, they're like, they're women's names. No, it's just convenient. It's convenient. They're related to the color of the guitar, right? It's like if you get a gold guitar, what do you call it?
I say, hand me. Do I have to say, hand me the cherry Les Paul, or hand me the
red
cherry
one.
Red ES335? I just say, hand me cherry, hand me Goldie, hand me,
Well, I mean, I would have called the cherry one red myself, because that's a name,
but still, people use red as a nickname for a woman that has red hair. So somebody would have read something into it.
Right. So, but this is proof. This is proof that that's not what's going on. Yeah, this is proof that's not what's going on here.
They're all named after their colors. And to be honest with you, the one that's amber colored, my daughter's name is Amber. So I said to her, I said, what should I call it? And she said, name it Vanessa. So that's why it's named Vanessa. But that's also my sister's name. So there you go.
Did you ask her yet?
Yeah. Well, she's 16 years younger than me. She doesn't
she doesn't talk yet.
Yeah. Well, she talks, but when I left home when she was 2. But the point is, no, they're not named after. These are not human names. They're not. Other than, I guess, Vanessa, but it's because I let my daughter name one guitar.
Hey, it could have been Fiore.
Yeah. Fiore, right. And Fiore is a name for a rose, but it's also a woman's name in Italy. So what are you going to do? You can't ever win. Somebody's going to name somebody after something.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. And you know what? There's only, a certain amount of genders, so.
Exactly. And so I think that like I said, I name everything after. I try to color coordinate everything too, and so that's why the other side of things is that the Alpine White Les Paul. So Al has a white strap with gold hardware, so I had to buy. I didn't dare take it out until I had everything matching. So I bought the white leather strap with gold strap locks. Oh, that my final note for my gear, my thing. So I've never had this happen until this weekend. So I'm playing that Centerbrook, where the 55 and older community, and my strap lock fails.
Dunlop?
playing my gold, that's Pearl, my golden Pearl Les Paul. That's why its name is Pearl, okay? Because I had a gold top before. So anyway, I'm playing Pearl. The darn strap lock at the head, this end, gives out on me. Luckily, I was holding it. A lot of times, I'll put my arms like this. I trust my strap locks. I am getting a hold of Schaller this week. I'll let you guys know how that goes. So I'm going to tell them, because that's a brand new set.
How did they fail?
The little plunger isn't holding it. It's just falling right out. The plunger isn't working.
Sounds like the spring. Sounds like that spring broke inside.
Yeah, and I kept pulling it back and forth. I even put lube in it to see if maybe it was sticking, because I'd put it on and then I had a grip on a guitar, but I'd pull at it, see if it was coming off. Nope. Then I'd be playing, it just pop off.
You know what's funny, Jim?
Yeah.
I don't use strap locks anymore. I have a giant bag of strap locks I'm going to sell on Reverb.
Really?
I ripped them all off my guitars. I went back to the standard strap pins. And reason being is, like, I don't get that freaky on stage with my guitars anyway. And I can always, if it's like a long gig, I can use the washer. Well, I mean, I hold them up and stuff, but they don't lead this hand. So even if they come off, they're not going to hit the floor. And those would be my long gig. This is what I'm doing. Thing. The PRS doesn't need them because the damn things are like a quarter.
Oh, they make them huge.
They're hard to get the strap on. It's hard to get the strap on.
PRS does really make it. Those are little things that they think about. That they go, you know what? We're gonna have gigging musicians. They're gonna want to do this. Let's make a big strap button.
My G&Ls are like standard Fender strap buttons. They're not great. That's the one that I would put the washers on before I play, kind of deal. But it's like. The other thing is, like, I don't like the washer thing because you have to leave the strap on in the case if you do it that way. I don't do that, so I generally around the house don't use a washer. I've never had a guitar fall off my body other than with Dunlops. I did have that happen one time, and I think it was user error because I couldn't get us to do it again. But I have a bag full of Dunlop and Schaller strap locks that I'm probably just gonna let go because I don't. Wow. It doesn't make sense. Like it's an expensive upgrade. Number one, it's $20 for every guitar you buy.
More now.
Yeah, and
they're closing in on 40 for the Schallers. I think I'm
using Schallers. Yeah, I'm using the Schallers. And they were getting price hiked pretty bad. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. And it's like, at least on gigs. I see more and more people just using the rubber washer because it's like, look, nobody wants to keep the strap on the thing in the case. And then if you're using Schallers, like the cost is expensive and they can fail. And like you're putting a lot of security, at least so if the Schaller is installed right, the guitar shouldn't hit the floor.
It shouldn't. What you were talking about with the washer, if Joe Bonamassa can trust it for $150,000 guitar, I think we might be able to trust it with our slightly less.
So you're telling me your Schaller, because it's like for the audience, it's a cup, right, with a plunger in it.
With a plunger.
And so you're saying that the cup actually was like upside down?
It flipped upside down and the plunger dropped down.
So it probably flipped over time and you didn't realize it.
No, I realized that it happened. So I unscrewed because they now have a set screw that holds the screw down. So I unscrewed the set screw, tightened that thing down like crazy. I had a wrench, tightened it down.
Yeah, I can't imagine that thing having flipped over completely at the same time it failed. I have had them flip.
That's two things that have to fail. The plunger and the cup both failed on me. I'm not impressed.
Yeah,
I actually prefer the way they used to do it, where, it was more of a pain in the ass, but it made you have to think, I got to make sure those bad boys are tight and tighten them down every now and again. This one gives you a false sense of security.
Yeah, with the current way that they put it, I will agree, Jim, with the current way they go on right now, it's not It's not the way it used to be, where you actually had to use a tool and like a socket wrench to tighten it up.
Yep, tighten it down.
And yeah, I think that was a superior design. And I think they had a lock washer too, didn't they? So
they did. They did. And they don't have that anymore. It's not there.
Yeah.
The whole idea was to make it easier for you personally, because by putting that set screw in, I don't trust that set screw. Plus, the set screw is so small. Have you tried to find I just bought a set of screwdrivers to use for that set screw.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's so small. So I might go back to these because I have them.
Yeah, I have a couple laying around, and it's all I'll ever need. I mean, honestly, I've been playing the PRS most of the time, so. And I can't even use strap locks on my acoustic, so. You know.
Yeah. No. Yep. As a matter of fact, that's what I use is these on my acoustic.
I can't even use those.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of my end pin sometime for my Godin. It doesn't have any. It's like it's a 1/4-inch jack.
Oh.
So because it's also I would have to have him put in a regular end pin.
Oh, that end.
And move the 1/4-inch somewhere else.
Yeah. Nope. That one I do. You're right. I don't have a lock on that side.
But theoretically, but theoretically, the cable should hold it in. So.
Yep.
I think the strap can come off there, but it's not going very far.
Yeah. It's not going to fall very far. It might F up your cable a little bit, but it's not going very far.
All right.
Well, that's it.
Long episode. I've been David.
Yep. I've been Jim.
And tonight we were Practical Guitarists.
Thank you.